going down memory lane a bit, aren't we, Isaiah?
Mm-hmm.
We are going to actually read. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell, a.k.a. Stairs in the Woods, which was the first episode we ever did when we were trying to figure out what in the hell the show even was. Oh, baby, I'm excited.
I am pumped. I'm so ready for it.
This is a good first episode to start with. I'm glad you suggested this.
Yeah.
I remember, which is so funny. I was going to say this before the podcast, but I remember when we first started this, we started looking at this and you're like, should we just read it? And I was looking through, I'm like, God, I mean, it's so long. Who the fuck wants to sit here and have us read this entire thing? And now we have a 12-hour
story.
And now we have a 12-hour episode up. So yeah, I think we missed the mark just a little on that. But we never actually sat down and read this. And this is such a popular story, and I know people have been recommending that we actually read it again, and I think we need to do it justice for actually doing it, because now I know Isaiah knows the author of this very well.
Yes.
And I think it would be good if we actually just read it. We did an actual episode, because I think that's our most, no, I think Left Right Games are it's one of our most viewed episodes, and it's not even
top
the
5.
format. Yep. It's not even in the format of how we do the show. So
it's top 5, and it's me and you being like, yeah, it's kind of a cool story.
So I think that
there's
it's
some parts I like.
It's so silly looking back at it now, and it's so funny because our commenters were really letting us down very softly. They were like, yeah, so don't do that. You should just read the story.
There's a lot of comments where people are like, this is cool and all, but I haven't read it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
And in hindsight,
good point.
The story is the episode is very much like, yes, it's kind of crazy in this part. This thing happens, and I think that's actually pretty cool. And it's you being like, yeah, I do think it is cool. Actually, it's like such a weird, like there's, I don't know. At the time, it seemed weird because
we were like, no one's gonna watch this if we just read a story.
Well, I feel
that's insane.
I think before,
and here we are.
It was before. It was like, I don't think. I mean, the plan I think was just to talk about the stories. Whatever. I don't think that we ever, when we were coming into this, I don't think it was ever us being like, oh, we're going to read the stories and kind of joke. Like, we didn't know what that format was yet. Because I think we were like, well, we don't want to just like read the story, because then it feels weird to, interject and talk, because no other channel really does that. Usually it's just like they're narration channels and you're there for the story. And then we just start reading stories and just like, I don't give a fuck. We're just gonna riff and chat between it, which is, what ended up becoming the podcast. So it's insane too. Like we're 2 years in now, and now we're coming back and we're touching base, which I think we were going to do this the first year, but then I think with the first tour we did and other stuff, I think it just didn't line up, and now we
ended up doing Ted the Caver for the 1 year.
That's what it was.
Because that's was the actual we've talked about before. That's technically the proto Creepcast episode, because it was on your channel before we did this. And then we wanted to do this for the 2 year, but then we had the Halloween tour. So have we missed the 2 year?
Yeah. We're definitely past 2 years.
We're celebrating the 2 year anniversary today. This is our celebration.
It's around. It was in November. We're around the same time. Listen,
it's close enough.
Yeah. Things happen. We're celebrating it now. That's all you need to know. And if anything, it's probably close to the holiday season for everybody when this is coming out. So happy holidays to everybody. And this is our little gift to you. Before we get into it as well, just want to discuss Zoe 101. Just kidding. We're not getting into that. But I will say, what the hell was that school that they stayed at? Is it a dormitory? Was it a penitentiary? I don't know. Just want to give a quick thank you to all the audio listeners right now who are listening on audio platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcasts and giving us a nice rating there. I appreciate you. And to our beautiful patrons, hello. Daddy sees you. Hello, children. I'm going to be back soon with the milk. Is that good? Did you like that?
No, I didn't like that, but that's good, I guess.
Okay. And I mean, without further ado, I'm ready to jump right in.
So there actually is further ado, because you didn't let me shout out the author at all.
There's further ado. Yeah. While you shout out the author,
if you don't want me to.
When you shout out the author, can I be in the background very quietly singing a song?
Very quietly.
I'll be very quiet.
Okay. So the author of this story. So the author of this story goes on Reddit as Search and Rescue Woods. Of course, we'll have the account linked in the description. This story was written over 10 years ago, and it is one of, if not maybe the most influential story to come out of No Sleep. Maybe not. It's top 5 easily. Stairs in the Woods have become a staple of like online internet culture, not only in like the creepypasta scary story space, but just online horror in general. One of my first videos on Wendigoon was me going over this story, so obviously it has a soft spot in my heart. Since then, I've reached out to the author of the story. Them and I have become friends. And then come to find out, the author of this story has a captioning company called Foul Weather Studios, who does the captioning for the Amazing Digital Circus. And they also do the captioning for my second channel, Wendigang. So them and I work together on a regular basis. They're really cool. So it's really cool to not only originally know them from this story that was so inspirational, one of the things that helped me get into the space I am, making these videos for you all, but to also know them as a person and to work with them is great. So, of course, I'm going to be a little biased as we tell this story, but for good reason. I think it deserves it. So we'll have the Foul Weather Studios, if anyone's interested in captioning work, as well as the Reddit account linked in the description. Be sure to show them some love.
I'm a little girl. All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, let's get into it. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell, aka Stairs of the Woods. I'm ready for it, man. I remember this was a fun one too when we were starting to do it. It has that very I hate to say it because it's such a fucking, I guess just like not liminal space, but just that kind of uncanny things that shouldn't be there. I know that you associated that with like growing up in the Appalachia area where it's like old houses in the middle of the woods that are broken down. It just feels uncanny. Nature growing through it, and all of a sudden there's like a staircase in the woods from something long ago. Just kind of cool.
Yeah. You come across these old like remnants of stuff, which we'll get more into detail of it later, but there's been a lot of cases where I've been in the woods and found like old hunting stands or old like, you find a random concrete pad in the middle of nowhere that probably a shed was on at some point, but now it's just grown up in the woods. Stuff like that. It's
Dead bodies.
Very
that
unnerving.
Homeless guy.
That's why I think the story resonated with so many people, because they're okay. Actually, you know, we're doing the thing again where we describe something without the audience being privy to it. So why don't we just read the story?
I was gonna say you also found that dead body in the woods, and you also had that homeless guy with the beans.
You are rewriting history on there. I did not find a dead body. I went looking for a dead body in the woods.
You found that dead body in the woods, and your dad said, "Do not tell anybody." And there was also the homeless guy in that house or whatever, and your dad said not to tell anybody about that too, right?
I've been looking.
No.
I've went looking for dead bodies in the woods multiple times, actually.
Why multiple times?
Because one was the story I talked about in the first episode or whatever, where it was a couple that went missing that we knew.
Right.
And the other was for Hurricane Helene, when there was like body recovery in the mountains after the flood and all that.
I really like how you said Helene, Hurricane Helene.
Yes.
Very sassy. And also the second time was for Hurricane Helene.
Yes, because you're coming at me with this, but I never found
the homeless man was my dad's best friend, and I did that because of Hurricane Helene.
I found on that one I found bodies, but it was because a cemetery had been dug up, and there were bodies from that out, but they were all bodies people were aware were dead. So that wasn't like a casualty recovery thing. That was just like they're over there.
What are you? Is this a zombie invasion? Those are bodies that people knew were dead. Yeah, well, I hope.
Yeah, because a cemetery got like ripped out of the ground.
Oh, because of Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene.
You're such a jerk.
Well, me and Daddy went to the cemetery to find some dead bodies. Of course, that was brought on by Hurricane Helene.
I'm not defending you for this one. When you get the comments, the tweets and stuff, I'm not saying anything.
Come on, man. We're buddies. We're having fun. We're a search and rescue officer.
next time I'm gonna tweet and be like, no, he did get banned because of the thing he said about Hassan. That is what happened.
You know, I just gotta say I had an emotional reaction to losing a game of Magic the Gathering, and I will not apologize. I refuse.
Just the same. Funny how just the same way. All of Twitter immediately made it into a conspiracy about Twitch, and that's why you got banned.
I know. I don't know why that happened.
Can you tell them what happened to your mom?
My mom was contacted by TMZ for whatever reason, because I'm sure it was some phishing website where they thought my mom's number was my number or something. But my mom was like, my mom was like, I just got a text from someone named Todd at TMZ. And I was like, I was like, do not respond to that. And she just texts back, oops. So.
Good job, Hunter's mom.
I know,
but TMZ wanted to see why you were banned from Twitch. That's how annoying it got. Next time I'm going to be like, yes, it was because of what you think it was over. And also he made fun of flood victims. You should throw that in there as well.
Hurricane Helene.
Okay, we're just going to read the story.
You said it so sassy. There was definitely, I was like, motherfucker flicked his wrist when he said, I'm like, he had some sass with it. Little whip. Okay. Whipping the nay a bit. Hurricane
I'm a search and rescue
Helene.
Officer for the Okay. Are we getting into this?
No. Yes, we are. The story, yes, we are.
Okay, all right. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell. Part 1.
Is the mayor passed to say the M word? Of course. Of course the mayor passes for to say the M word.
Wasn't sure where else to post these stories, so I figured I'd share them here. I've been a search and rescue officer for a few years now, and along the way I've seen some things that I think you guys will be interested in. I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time they just wander off the path or slip down a small cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old "stay where you are" thing, and they don't wander far. But I've had 2 cases where that didn't happen. Both bother me a lot. I use them as motivation to search even harder on the missing persons cases I get called on. The first was a little boy who was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them went missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for a few seconds, and in that time both the kids apparently wandered off. When their parents couldn't find them, they called us, and we came out to search the area. We found the daughter pretty quickly, and when we asked where her brother was, she told us that he'd been taken away by Bear Man. She said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet, and that he wanted to play with her brother for a while.
Oh, God.
The last...
Oh, God. I forgot about this. Oh, Jesus
Christ. About the Bear Man?
Ooh. Oh, my God. Is that subconsciously was the bear trap thing because our traumatized nature from the Bear Man?
The game was rigged from the start. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulders of the Bear Man and seemed calm. Of course, our first thought was abduction, but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was also insistent that he wasn't a normal man, that he was tall and covered in hair, like a bear, and that he had a weird face. We searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, but we never found a single trace of that kid. The other was a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she never come back down. They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name, before they called for help. Again, we searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could possibly have gone, because neither her mother or grandpa saw her come down. I love how each of these little segments feel like their own campfire story, you know?
Yeah, but I don't know, like it sucks you in to the point where the idea of it is very creepy, but I'm also just like, huh? Like if a guy was telling me about this, he's like, yeah, I don't know, like a guy got abducted by a circus freak or something like that. We never saw him, and a girl climbed up a tree and she never came back down. Those are kind of weird. I'd be like, huh? Hold up. What? I was like, you don't have any more information on that?
One a little bit.
I was like, what do you mean? Also, how do the parents, how did they come to terms with that? Where they just like, all right, well, she's not coming down. Let's go. But the concepts are really cool though, you know?
Yeah.
Like I mean like the girl climbing up the tree, which you just have to assume is like a never ending thing, or like even like she went too high up and now it's like, I don't know, entered a different dimension or something.
Or something grabbed her up there, or something like that.
Something like that is fucking haunting. But then also just the which, you know, the creepypasta thing, it's hard not to just imagine a fucking hairy pedophile in the woods that just abducted a boy. But it could also just be literally like a Sasquatch kind of monster, or like even just some kind of creature like living in the woods just took the kid, you know, you are my own now or something. I don't know. Both of them are very fun, and you're like, but what happened? Hey, what happened? But you're right. It gives that campfire feel where it's like, you know, well, what happened next? And then your dad, who's like definitely not creative, will say like, no one knows or whatever, like that kind of thing. You're like, whoa. He's like, yeah, don't ask questions.
Well, it's also from the perspective of a search and rescue officer who just like, they don't know anything about the lead up. They just know the cases. They just know what a little girl said, or they just saw someone walk up into a tree. So it's like the person narrating's on limited information, so your mind kind of makes inferences off of what little we get.
Yeah.
A few times I've been out on my own searching with a canine. They've tried to lead me straight up cliffs, not hills, not even rock faces. Straight, sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling, and in those cases, we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff, or miles away from where the canine has led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. One particularly sad case involved the recovery of a body. A 9-year-old girl fell down an embankment and got impaled on a dead tree at the base. It was a complete freak accident, but I'll never forget the sound her mother made when we told her what had happened. She saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance, and she let out the most haunting, heartbroken wail I ever heard. It was like her whole life was crashing down around her, and a part of her had died with her daughter. I heard from another search and rescue officer that she killed herself a few weeks after it happened. She couldn't live with the loss of her daughter. I also like details like that are like tragic, but not explicitly supernatural.
Yeah, so, well, it can be just like
set dressing.
How even just accidents happen out in nature, and how fucking haunting that can be, which is true. Yeah. But I do think it's important for the story so far, because it definitely leans into where like there's probably going to be some things that are just of nature, like things just happen.
Yeah,
you know,
not all of it has to be supernatural.
Yeah.
I was teamed up with another search and rescue officer because we'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to, and we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get to where we'd figured he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevice with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him into a chopper, and I heard from one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine, and when he got to the top, a man had been there. He said the guy had no climbing equipment, and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy. When the guy turned around, he said he had no face. It was just blank. He freaked out and ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he'd fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night, climbing down the mountain and letting out these horrible, muffled screams. That story bothered the hell out of me. Glad I wasn't there to hear it.
I want to say I love that being the next story after the girl falling, because you are like, oh man, it probably was an accident, but now it sets a little layer of doubt in your head.
Yeah.
You know, like
it's like, well, maybe there's something up, that maybe there's faceless people up on the mountain, whatever that is.
Also, a fun thing too, an out of season, basically skier that's up on the mountain, where it's like, okay, well, this guy has definitely just been up here or got like lost. Like, who knows what happened to even that guy? You know, transformed. Who knows how long ago?
It's like a ghost almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me involved the search for a young woman who'd gotten separated from her hiking group. We were out until late at night because the dogs had picked up her scent. When we found her, she was curled up under a large rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack, and She was clearly in shock. She didn't have any injuries. We were able to get her to walk with us back to base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking us why that big man with black eyes was following us. We couldn't see anyone, so we just wrote it off as some weird symptom of shock. But the closer we got to base, the more agitated this woman got. She kept asking me to tell him to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped and turned around and started yelling into the forest, saying that she wanted him to leave her alone. She wasn't going with him, she said, and she wouldn't give us to him. We finally got her to keep moving, but we started hearing these weird noises coming from all around us. It was almost like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. It was almost insect-like. Don't really know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turns to me, and her eyes are about as wide as I can imagine a human could open them. She touches my shoulder and says,
He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck.
I have a very small scar on the base of my neck, but it's mostly hidden under my collar, and I have no idea how this woman saw it. Right after she says it, I heard that weird coughing right in my ear, and it just about jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to ops, trying not to show how freaked out I was, but I have to say I was really happy when we left the area that night. Yeah. the bug man, the insect man is following us through the woods and then calls out the ear. This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other search and rescue officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. Yep. Here we go. This is it, the Hall of Famer, the big hitter. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking 30 or 40 miles, at some point, we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go anywhere near them. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently. I have a lot more stories, and I suppose if anyone's interested, I'll tell some of them tomorrow. If anyone has any theories about the stairs, or if you've seen them too, let me know. End of part one.
End of part one, which worth to mention as well. One, this is 10 years old, 2015, which would you say that was the pinnacle? Because what creepypasta started getting written like around like 2010, maybe 2011, whatever, but it really blew up in
2012, I would say, around the time of like, it was after Slender Man. Slender Man was, I think, the kickoff in my mind, and then kind of creepypasta culture spiraled
so
out from
2015 is probably the peak. So 2015
was when people were like, oh, we can write on these and try.
Yeah.
They don't have to be scary faces.
Yeah. I think it's interesting just seeing a post like this, because this seems like such a, I don't know, I wasn't there, but in my mind, it seems like such a new take of like little digestible moments, right? Because it almost feels like, it feels like the book when we were younger, the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, very bite-sized small things where it's very much just like, I heard about this thing happening, kind of like what you were saying, it's just a ghost story, a campfire story, and it's very, it's just giving you the scary moment, but you know, none of the character stuff with it, but it's just the thing of like, I heard about this thing happening and it was really scary. And then like another scary moment. And then we move on to the next one. I love these kind of like little digestible appetizer sized horror. Cause also even like now the guy, like the woman who was shocked hiding under a rotted log. And then now all of a sudden the bug man is like following her. And you just get that one quote of just her saying like, you know, she said he says to walk faster, and then he gives it. And then she even says the scar on the back of his neck, which it's like, how would she have seen that in the dark, whatever. just really fun. We start off with, things of very brief and quick, but it seems like as we kept going down, they got a little darker and a little more detailed, which I don't know if you noticed that too, but I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I understand why this post blew up so much, because you just read through a bunch of stories. It has 32,000 upvotes. My word. Is that the most on No Sleep?
No, I think the sex worker one is.
Oh, hold on. Top of all time. Yeah, you're right. It's got to be, yes, it's like number 6 or 7, yeah, of all time. It has all these fun ideas that leaves you just, again, like a campfire story. It's like, oh, what could the bear man be? What would the insect man be? Are these the same things described by two different people? What does an insect cough sound like? Why did he tell her to hurry up? And obviously the stairs in the woods. I think the stairs in the woods is so effective because, like I said, growing up where I did, it's not uncommon walking through the woods to see abandoned structures, right? So you come across these things and there's normally an explanation. Like the biggest one I remember is old chimneys and fireplaces.
Right.
You'd be walking through the woods and you come across a
stone structure,
patch of trees. Yeah, because the entire house was wood except for the stones of the chimney or fireplace. So everything else rotted away or was carried off except for the stones. So you see stuff like that and there's like an explanation. But sometimes you would see something kind of weird. Like I've talked about on the show, I think, when I was a kid at a park and saw a door in the middle of the woods with like an old brass handle. And it was just the door standing up. Like it's a piece of the frame and it kind of leaned on a tree. But from a distance, looked like a floating door. So it's like, that's a bit more weird. Why did that get out there? What's the story with that? So I feel like a staircase in the woods hits that right spot of it's clearly weird and wrong, but it's just familiar enough that I can convince myself I've seen it before.
Well, it's entering the uncanny valley, which is why I think people find it so fascinating too, is that everyone has experienced, stairs, and to have it be in a place that it's leading to nothing, get your mind racing that at the top of stairs, there should always be, something, right? What are you walking towards? So having it be out in the middle of nowhere, especially 30, that's another great little detail too. 30 to 40 miles. There's no way they're putting a house in the middle. there just doesn't make any sense, right?
No, not a 2-story one at least.
Yeah. So having it be that deep into the woods, and then also the way that he describes it too, of take the stairs in your house to where even at points, at least whenever I read it there, I even just pictured like more modern, like a modern staircase. And you're like, what? Not even like a really old Victorian kind of, 1800s kind of house or whatever. I'm talking like if it was something that was like, millennial core fucking gray stairs with the black bars or whatever, like that kind of thing. We were like, what the fuck? Like it looks too new, which I think makes it even creepier, feeling like it's not of the time. Like it doesn't make any sense that something that new would be out there, which is why it's just, you can run with it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, part two. Hi, this video is sponsored by our partners at Factor. After all the
I'll address a few things that you guys have brought up. There's been an overwhelming amount of people mentioning the similarity between some of my stories and those of David Paulides. I assure you, I'm not trying to rip him off in any way. Got nothing but respect for the guy. He's actually what inspired me to write this, because I can verify a lot of the things he talks about. We do have a lot of these strange missing persons cases, and most of the time they aren't involved. Either that, or we find them in places they have no business being. I personally haven't been on many calls like that, but I'll share a few that I've seen, and a story my friend told me that relates to this. I wonder if that was thrown in as a legal disclaimer. I can't remember how litigious David Paulides was 10 years ago, but I know he's pretty bad now about stuff.
I know I just looked it up. So people who don't know him, David Paulides this is what Wikipedia says, is an American former police officer who is now an investigator and writer, known for his books, The Missing 411, which is basically just like missing reports, I believe.
So Missing 411 is the term that gets used now because of David Paulides' books to describe people that go missing in national parks.
Right. Because he also has a book called Tribal Bigfoot. So it does seem like a lot of this is Missing 411 Canada. It looks like it's all, just like in the woods. Yeah, you're right.
So 411 is like in like a police report, like the number for like info or data or whatever. So missing means like people that vanish without a trace. which I've covered a bunch of the missing 411 stories on the channel, like Dennis Martin, or cases like that that was in the Smokies.
Do the if it's a missing persons case, are these more of like a true crime thing, or, and when correct me if I'm wrong, I apologize, but is it do they lean into that paranormal kind of thing? Because it seems like he's or go ahead.
The idea of missing 411 typically is there's so little information, or like it's an unexplainable case. It could be true crime, it could be supernatural, and a lot of, especially David's stuff, kind of plays in the middle. Like, oh, who knows what it could be? Like the Dennis Martin case that I did a video on was a little boy who was at a camping trip with his dad, his parents up in the Smoky Mountains, and he walked behind a bush to jump out and scare his dad, and his dad walked over to the bush and he was gone.
Jesus.
And they had I think it was the Green Berets were training nearby around Gatlinburg, and they had them come in and search the woods for a month, and they never found him.
My God. How the fuck could you sleep at night? I mean, you see him go behind the bush, never. I mean, like with things like that too. Man, God. I mean, like immediately my mind was like, God, was like a wildcat got him, or like, I mean, like who fucking knows? Like that's insane.
Completely silent off the. That's how most of the missing 411 stuff is. It's like off the face of the earth, just there 1 second, gone the next. But yeah, so that's where a lot of the stuff is. Where I say about the litigious is, I don't know about now, but for a while, David Paulides was real lawyery about people using the term missing 411. And I know some YouTubers like had stuff get struck and things like that. So not,
but these are real, but his are real cases though. Correct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like when I cover missing 411 stuff, they're real cases, you know,
right.
They're actual disappearances and stuff like that.
But I can see, but I guess what I'm saying is
the wording. He's like, no, that's my wording. That's my term. I came up with that term.
So I see. Which, I mean, like, I could see people though seeing that kind of book or that kind of phenomenon, and then of course using that as inspiration to be like, oh, like, you know, like almost using that as inspiration for storytelling or something.
Sure, like this story,
exactly,
like this search and rescue. Yeah, but mostly saying that to say, I wonder if search and rescue officer, like the author, was like, this is not stealing David's work, or if it was in earnest, just like, yeah, I like David's work. I mean, it did do good work. The YouTube stuff just annoys me, but
yeah. No, I feel you.
There's a lot of feedback about the stairs, so I'll touch on that briefly here, and I'll also include a story. They come in a variety of shapes, sizes, styles, and conditions. Some are pretty dilapidated, just ruins, but others are brand new. I saw one set that looked like they came from a lighthouse. They were metal and spiral, almost old-fashioned. The stairs don't go up infinitely or farther than I can see, but some sets are taller than others. Like I said before, just imagine the stairs in your house as if someone cut and pasted them in the middle of nowhere. I don't have any pictures. It's never really occurred to me to try again after the first time, and I don't really feel like risking my job over it. I'll try again in the future, but I can't really promise anything. A few people expressed confusion about the guy who ran into the man with no face. Just to clarify, when the climber ascended and reached the top of this peak, he saw another man in a parka and ski pants. This was the man with no face. Sorry about the confusing wording of that story. I'll try to avoid that in the future.
I feel like that was pretty clear, but all right.
Yeah, I guess. Well, Redditors, am I right?
Yeah.
Can't really trust a lot of times.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to not give this one an up, dude. I didn't understand that.
Yeah, which one was wearing the ski jacket? Story ruined. Over. You know what? Banned. As far as missing persons go, I'd say about half the calls I get are related to that. The others are rescue calls. People who fall down cliffs and hurt themselves, get injured by fire. You wouldn't believe how often this happens. Mostly drunk kids. Get bitten or stung by animals or insects. We're a tight team, and we have veterans who are excellent at finding signs of lost people. That's what makes these cases where we never find any trace of them so frustrating. One in particular was upsetting for all of us, because we did find a trace of them, but it just led to more questions than answers. An older man had been hiking alone on a well-established trail, but his wife called to say that he hadn't come home when he should have. Apparently, he had a history of seizures, and she was worried that he hadn't taken his medication and had suffered one out on the trail. Before you ask, I have no idea why he thought it was okay to go out alone or why she didn't go with him. I don't ask about that kind of thing because past a certain point, it doesn't really matter. Someone is missing and it's my job to find them. We went out in a standard search formation, and it wasn't long before one of our vets found signs that the guy had gone off the trail. We grouped up and followed him, spreading out in a fan to make sure we were covering as much ground as possible. Suddenly, a call comes over the radio telling us all to head back to the vet's location, and we come right away, because this usually means the missing person is injured and we need a full team to help get them out safely. We meet back up, and the vet is just standing at the base of a tree with his hands on the sides of his head. I ask my buddy what's going on. He points up into the branches of this tree. I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing, but there's a walking stick dangling from a branch at least 30 feet off the ground. The little strap thing on the handle had been looped around the branch, and it's just hanging there. There's no way the guy could have tossed it up that far, and we don't have any other signs that he's still in the area. We call up into the tree, but it's obvious no one's in it. We're all just sort of left scratching our heads. We keep searching for the guy, but we never find him. We even bring our canines out, but they lose the scent long before this tree. Eventually, the search is called off because there are other calls that we have to attend to. Past a certain point, there's not much we can do. The guy's wife called us every day for months asking if we found her husband. It was heartbreaking to hear her get more and more hopeless each time. I'm not sure why this call in particular was so upsetting, but I think it was just the sheer improbability of it. That and the questions that were raised. How the hell had this guy's cane ended up there? Someone kill him and toss that up some weird trophy? We did our best to find him, but it was almost like a taunt. We still talk about that one from time to time. Man, imagine, like, again, the campfire thing. It's like, okay, did he go up a staircase and get up there? Did something kill him and drag him up there? Or
the staircase is kind of an interesting theory, actually. Walking out randomly,
that he walked to the top of a staircase. Yeah,
got snagged by something, and then exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many, like, but again, it leaves enough room where all we see is the aftermath. So it's like what.
Well, there's always like a extremely like sad and bitter taste in your mouth because these do a good job also by like showing the victim's family, like just that little thing of like she called every day, just heartbreaking. Yeah, brutal.
Yeah. Or alternatively, did the bear man show up and hurl this dude into the sky?
Yeah, the bug man and the bear man just fucking suplexed him to the moon.
Woo! Missing kids are the most heartbreaking. Doesn't matter what circumstances they go missing under, it's never easy. And we always dread the ones we find deceased. It's not common, but it does happen. David Politis talks a lot about kids search and rescue teams found in places they shouldn't be or couldn't be. I can honestly say I've heard about this kind of thing happening more than I've seen it, but I'll share one of the ones that I think about a lot that I witnessed personally. A mother and her 3 kids were out for a picnic in an area of the park that has a small lake. One is 6, one is 5, and the other is about 3. She's watching them all really closely, and according to her, she never lets them out of her sight at any time. She never saw anyone else in that area either, which is important. She packs their stuff up and they start to head back to the parking area. Now, this lake is only about 2 miles into the woods, and it's on a very clearly established trail. It's almost impossible to get lost getting from the parking area to it, unless you're deliberately going off the path like an imbecile. Her kids are walking in front of her when she hears what sounds like someone coming up the path behind her.
God.
She turns around, and in the 4 or so seconds she's not looking, her 5-year-old son vanishes. She figures he stepped off the trail to pee or something, and she asked her other 2 where he went. They both tell her that a big man with a scary face came out of the woods next to them, took the kid's hand, and led him into the trees. The 2 remaining kids don't seem upset. In fact, she says later that it seems like they've been drugged. They're sort of spacey and fuzzy. So of course, she freaks out, starts looking frantically in the area for her kid. She's screaming his name, and she says at one point she thinks she heard him answer her. Now obviously, she can't go blindly running into the woods. She's got the other 2 kids, so she calls the police and they send us out immediately. We respond and we start the search for him. Over the course of this search, which spans miles, we never find a single trace of the kid. Canines can't pick up any scent. We don't find any clothing or broken bushes or literally anything that would signify a child being there. Of course, there's suspicion about the mother for a while, but it's pretty clear that she's completely destroyed by the whole thing. We looked for this kid for weeks, with a lot of volunteer help. But eventually, search peters out, and we have to move on. The volunteers keep searching, though. And one day, we get a call on the radio letting us know that a body's been found and needs to be recovered. They tell us the location, and none of us can believe it. We figure it has to be a different kid. But we go out there, about 15 miles from the site where he vanished, and sure enough, we find the body of the kid we've been looking for. I've been trying to figure out how this kid got where he did ever since we found him, and I've never come up with an answer. Volunteer just happened to be in the area because he figured he might as well look in places no one else would think to on the off chance the body had been dumped. He comes to the base of a tall, rocky slope, and halfway up, he sees something. Looks through his binoculars, and sure enough, it's the body of a little boy, stuffed in a little opening in the rock. He recognizes the color of the kid's shirt, so he knows right away that it's the missing boy. That's when he calls it in, and we're dispatched. It took us almost an hour to get his body down, and none of us could believe what we were seeing. Not only was the kid 15 miles from where he'd started, there was no possible way he could have gotten up there on his own. This slope is treacherous, and it's hard even for us with our climbing gear. 5-year-old boy had no way of getting up there. Of that, I'm certain. Not only that, but the kid doesn't have a scratch on him. His shoes are gone, but his feet aren't damaged or dirty. So it wasn't as if an animal dragged him up there. And from what we can tell, he hasn't been dead that long. He'd been out there over a month by that point, and it looked like he'd only been dead for, at most, a day or two. The whole thing was unbelievably strange. It was one of the most disconcerting calls I've ever been on. We found out later that the coroner determined the kid had died from exposure. He'd frozen to death, probably late at night, 2 days before we found him. There were no suspects and no answers. To date, it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Jesus. So he was stuffed inside? Do you think he was just trapped? He couldn't get out of the...
No, because they mentioned that it's a place up a rock face where a kid couldn't have gone. So it's like the fuzzy man, the man with the scary face or whatever. Or not the fuzzy man shows up later. The man with the scary face, like, leads him by the hand, and then maybe the kid dies in the woods, so he just shoves his body into a rock crevice, like halfway up a mountainside.
Jesus. God, to find that too would be fucking disgusting. Good Lord. It's weird though. It's like these things where I can't tell if they're leading them to the stairs or if it's like, because like it doesn't seem like they're being murdered. I think the stairs
are just one of the many things that happens out here.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. I just thought in a weird way, it feels like in this unnatural world, all these things are connected in some. Yeah. I don't know. It's just odd.
Yep. It reminds me, a lot of these details remind me of real cases. There was one case, I think it was somewhere in like the PNW, I think Montana, where I think he was 4. He was with his family and he was out camping and he disappears and they have a big hunt for him for 2 days. And they find him, I may be getting 2 of them combined in my head. They find him in the middle of like a pond on a tree. And he's alive. He's still alive. And they ask him what happened. And he's like, the cat, a big cat or a kitty or something like that, was with him. And then he was just up in that tree and he couldn't give any more explanation. But he had gotten, I think, 12 miles over the course of a day or so. And there was an episode of Survivor Man where he tried to recreate the path in the same time frame and he couldn't do it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
So it's like, how did a 4-year-old?
I feel like people might be like, 15 miles isn't that far. 12 miles isn't that far.
That's try it through a sheer rock face straight up. Yeah,
exactly. It's not like it's a straight path. It's up major. I mean, like you'd have to walk. It would be insane.
Yeah, 4-year-old now. So the only theory people make is like maybe a cougar carried him all the way and left him on top of a tree for some reason.
Like, just stay here, you'll be fine.
Yeah. So, weird stuff happens out there. I've heard, dude. So I was camping not long ago, and we were out in the middle of the woods, and I wasn't tent camping. I was just on a bivvy and a tarp. And I was curled up in my sleeping bag. This is around, I think, 3 in the morning, middle of nowhere, underneath the trees, super dark. And I'm going to sleep. And right before I fell asleep, I heard so distinctly a car unlocking.
Ugh.
Like someone hit a key fob, the little click click,
Yeah.
And dude, I shot up and was spinning around 20 miles from any roadway, right?
Yeah.
And bro, it messed with me.
Can you imagine?
I was like, what would make that noise?
Can you imagine a mountain lion stealing your whip?
Just runs me over with my Forerunner, drives it all the way out to the woods.
Who is that? Whatever. And then they has his head out the window. I think he does a fucking donut and he flips you off with his paw and he drives off.
I'd honestly be like, that's pretty sick.
That's cool. A cool cat.
That's a cool mountain lion. That's the coolest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Holy mountain lion steals my car.
That was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, exactly. You die frozen out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Like, you know what? Almost worth it. Almost worth it.
I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Turtle Beach. Things don't always.
My first jobs as a trainee was a search op for a 4-year-old kid that had gotten separated from his mom. This is one of those cases where we knew we were going to find him because the dogs were on a strong scent trail and we saw clear signs that he was in the area. We ended up finding him in a berry patch about half a mile from where he'd last been seen. Kid wasn't even aware that he'd wandered that far. One of the vets brought him back, which I was glad for because I'm really not good with kids, and I find it hard to talk to them and keep them company. As my trainer and I are headed back, she decides to take me on a detour to show me one of the hot spots where we tend to find missing people. It's a natural dip in the land near a popular trail, and people usually move downhill because it's easier. We hike out there. It's a few miles away, and we get there in about an hour or so. As we're walking around the area and she's pointing out places she's found people in the past, I see something in the distance. Now, this area we're in is about 8 miles from the main parking area, though there's back roads you can take to get closer if you don't want to hike that far. But we're on state protected land, which means there can't be any kind of commercial or residential development out here. The most you'll ever see is a fire tower, makeshift shelter that homeless people think they can get away with building. But I could see from here that whatever this thing is has straight edges. If there's one thing you learn quickly, it's that nature rarely makes straight lines. I point it out, but she doesn't say anything. She just hangs back and lets me wander over and check it out. I get within about 20 feet of it, and all the hair on the back of my neck stands up. It's a staircase in the middle of the woods. In the proper context, it would literally be the most benign thing ever. It's just a normal staircase with beige carpet and about 10 steps tall. But instead of being in a house, where it obviously should be, it's out here in the middle of the woods. The sides aren't carpeted, obviously, and I can see the wood it's made of. It's almost like a video game glitch, where the house has failed to load completely and the stairs are the only thing visible. I stand there. It's like my brain is working overtime and trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. My trainer comes and stands next to me, and she just stands there casually, looking at it as if it's the least interesting thing in the world. I ask her what the thing is doing here, and she just chuckles.
Get used to it, Ricky. You're going to see a lot of them.
I start to move closer, but she grabs my arm, hard.
I wouldn't do that.
Her voice is casual, but her grip is tight, and I just stand there looking at her.
You're going to see them all the time, but don't go near them. Don't touch them. Don't go up to them. Just ignore them.
I start to ask her about it, but something in the way she's looking at me tells me that it's best if I don't. We end up moving on, and the subject doesn't come up again for the rest of my training. She was right, though. I'd say about every 5th call I go on, I end up running across a set of stairs. Sometimes they're relatively close to the path, maybe within 2 or 3 miles. Sometimes they're 20, 30 miles out, literally in the middle of nowhere. And I only find them during the broadcast searches or training weekends. They're usually in good condition, but sometimes it looks like they've been out there for miles. All different kinds, all different sizes. The biggest I ever saw looked like they came out of a turn-of-the-century mansion and were at least 10 feet wide with steps leading up at least 15 or 20 feet. I've tried talking about it with people, but they just give me the same response my trainer did.
It's normal. Don't worry about it. They're not a big deal, but don't go close to them or up to them.
When trainees ask me about it now, I give them the same response. I don't really know what else to tell them. I'm really hoping someday I get a better answer, but it hasn't happened yet.
I feel like by not telling you what would happen if you go up it, it would make me go up it.
Yeah, well, you'd go up and immediately get like particle eviscerated.
Or just so, because also it seems like, I'm guessing, if I had to guess, it seems like each staircase leads to a different area or something, or it attracts something different. You know what I mean? Like, I doubt all the staircases lead to the same place.
To me, the staircase, which the story never gives you a clear answer, right? But to me, the staircase almost feels like a lure. You know?
Yeah, it's like it's just like a little hook dangling there to be like, oh, come on, just walk on me.
Yeah, because it's like there's some entity that wants people to cross over to join it or whatever, and you need to go up. So it's almost like humans go up on these.
Let me ask you this.
This is what the image will be, to be placed out in the woods.
Let me ask you this. If you were a paranormal entity in the woods, what would be your lure?
Am I, like, what would get me personally? Or if I was the entity, what would I try to get people with?
Yeah, the latter. Mine? Can I at least say mine?
Go ahead.
Hot dog stand.
I was going to say women. But I guess that only gets half the population. If it has to be one blanket.
What do you mean that only gets half the population? You could be a woman out in the middle of the woods and anybody's going to be like, oh, are you okay? I'm over here. No, I'm talking about, it needs to be like a random object. Like, can you imagine walking through you're walking through the deep woods.
When I said women, by the way, when I say women, by the way, I mean explicitly like a goth baddie type.
Oh, buddy, I know what you mean. Right. I know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not just saying like the voice of a woman. I'm talking like I'm talking like the moments,
milky boobies.
Well, okay, all right. I didn't say that. I'm talking like
I get it.
When the coyote's like humana is like the eyes popping out of the head. That's what I was referring to.
Hitting the table.
That kind of thing. Yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. So if it had to be an item, you said hot dog stand, right?
Yeah.
I think a hot dog stand's pretty good. That would get me in the middle of the woods.
I mean, can you imagine that you're walking through the woods and all of a sudden you're like, a glizzy stand? And also it has all the fixins right on it. It has all the stuff of like, it has relish, it has ketchup, mustard, everything you could want, right? And it smells delightful. That's how I would do it.
Yeah. Well, if I'm a smart entity that knows that would look out of place and suspicious, I would do one of those like the little boxes they set up on trails where you can like, it's like emergency supplies with like food and stuff like that, like beef jerky.
See, if I were, you know, what's kind of interesting, like it's not necessarily as uncanny as the stairs in the woods, but what if you were, what if I evolved yours a little bit? What if it was one of those boxes in neighborhoods, in hipster neighborhoods where people leave books?
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Like a book trade thing?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. What is this? That kind of thing. You're the book bandit. You're the book bandit.
Let's phrase it a bit differently, because it seems that the point of the stairs is you have to walk through them, like you have to go through the portal. So what would you set up to make people walk through an area?
I would have. Okay, so you have to, because in my mind, if you take a book,
they have to cross a threshold.
So you're saying this has to be an actual threshold you have to cross. Mine would be a slip and slide. An enticing slip and slide. And let me tell you, it has all the water features and everything too. Can you imagine trying to not be like, oh, dude, no one's out here? I could just go on this really quick.
I'm not going to ask where the water's coming from or why it's in pristine condition.
I would say it's impossible. If no one else is around, you're like, I'm not going to look stupid. It's impossible. You like a fully operational slip and slide, a tightrope between two trees, like, you know, like one of those things where you try to balance on it. Whoa! It even has the mat underneath it. Yeah, I think those are two good. I think I've given two fairly good ones.
You know what's weird? Thinking about this now, like, what would you have to make people walk through? A random staircase is probably the best lure, because that I feel like I have a natural inclination to walk up it. You know,
what if it was a tightrope where you couldn't see the other end of you couldn't see what it was tied to?
I think I absolutely would not get on that. I think if I was walking through the woods and came across that, I'm not touching it. No way.
What about the slip and slide? What about the slip and slide where you didn't see the end of it?
No, I'm not getting on a slip and slide in the middle of the woods. I can't see the end of it.
Right.
Do you want to hike the rest of the way soaking wet?
The water fountains that are going on it.
Do you want to hike the rest of the way back soaked?
I don't think I really mind. I think I probably got kind of dirty.
Have you ever hiked with wet socks? Do you know how much that sucks?
Obviously, you don't fucking wear your socks and shoes. You take it off. You just go on. You're like, wee, on your knees, and you get back. You put on your dry socks. And you put on your shoes. That's what any normal person would do.
I feel like the stairs are the easiest because people just like will walk up the staircase.
I am not trying to dethrone the stairs. You asked me what the portal would be.
Okay, I did ask the threshold, but you're the one that originally asked. I said a woman, and then I said a big-titted,
thick-thighed woman with fishnets.
No, you are adding adjectives I did not put on this young lady.
I'm deciphering.
This young woman.
Okay, we don't need to emphasize the age. With you were like, but hey, listen, it's not just a voice, fellas. You did say that.
Yeah, because you said no. That's because I said that only attracts half, and you're like, no, it doesn't. If a woman's calling out in the woods, and I clarified, I'm not talking about a woman calling out in the woods. I'm talking about you make eye contact and you do the whole coyote like, oh no, and you like run for a second like Scooby Doo in place, and then take off like pew, and there's a little cloud of smoke. That's what I'm talking about, not like a help me. Because if I'm in the woods and I just hear that, I am not.
You're not gonna help?
Okay, all right. Realistically, I am gonna help. But we're not talking about a realistic scenario. We're talking about a lure setup.
Yeah, but
we're talking about a lure.
Yes.
If I'm in the woods and I hear someone yelling help and I go look and it's just a voice that's kind of spatially calling out from somewhere, no. I would go look to make sure it's not someone that needs help.
I
would go look for someone to make sure it's not that needs help. But if if I get to a patch and I'm like, the noise is coming from right here, but there's no one here, I'm leaving.
Well, sure. But I'm saying that it would, because in my mind, at first it's kind of far away, and then the closer you get, the louder it gets to where it keeps luring you in of like, I'm close. I'm very close. But then by the time that I figure you know that it's not real, I feel like the thing has gotten you, is what I would assume. Right?
Probably. By the time I realized, I would probably be got.
Right.
Yes. Whereas if
there's any levels of uncanniness, I agree. I mean, I would be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. That doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Or if I kept getting deeper,
if you see a woman, you got to get all the way up to it before you realize. Is my point.
Easy. All right.
See? See, exactly. That's my point.
No. Easy.
100%.
You're sitting there. You're like, if I see a woman, I got to get all the way up to it. Hurricane Helene, baby.
No, not like that. No.
Hurricane Helene.
I didn't like that connection.
And I tell you what, what's even more poignant is also if you see a slip and slide that you would be like, okay, well, obviously I'm doing this, but then there's no way to get off of it. See, that's the slip and slide effect too, is that you're like, wee, and you're like, okay, this is kind of going on too long. And now you're going to slip and slide for too slippery. Can't move. Yeah. No way of stopping. Go down a large.
The slip and slide in the woods sounds like a very like Pennywise scenario.
It does. It's too childish, but I will say it would be effective for me at least. I'm a very dumb man. I'm curious. I feel like I legitimately actually believe that a lot of people would fall for the slip and slide. It would be too enticing. It would be uncanny, but I think that it's so comically, like it's so almost like embedded with our youth that I feel like there would be, like, I don't think that you would look at it with hostility. For some reason, to me, the stairs in the woods, I'm like, that's just creepy because it feels like something has been destroyed. It's like a loss of life around this. A full-blown slip and slide with the arches of like the fountains going on it. I think that you would bypass your normal intuition, and I think that you would participate. I think you would definitely
apply. I can apply the exact same reasoning to a woman.
Okay. All right. Lord, Hurricane Helene. We get it. I understand.
I don't like the way you keep saying that
Hurricane
in relation to this scenario.
Hurricane Helene.
And obviously everything I'm saying is in respect to my wife, but I'm saying that's the easiest way to get a guy to walk into the woods with absolutely no credit or thought to what's happening.
You could have said that last thing with more of a fucking lie. I'm saying with all respect to my wife.
Of course, my wife. Yeah, I wouldn't fall for it now because I'm a married man.
The largest wink ever. Definitely with respect to my wife.
My wife. I'm just saying.
Hurricane Helene.
I'm saying that I, of course, wouldn't fall for it because I'm a married man. But if I was to trap a man, that would be the way I trap it as the entity.
I think that we can at least agree that there would be a lot of easy ways to actually lure humans to the woods.
Honestly, dude, put a funny looking stick out there.
Yeah,
or like something looks strange. And I'm like, what's that? I gotta go get that. So,
that, or if you did a thing like we just like if you had like a giant like a big pumpkin out there, right? There's a big pumpkin,
I would 100% go.
But it's formed in a way that looks like it has a giant ass, where it's kind of funny. You're like, doesn't it look like a big butt?
Yeah,
looks like a big butthole. You like look up at it. Look at the butt. I think that would lure people in too.
Yeah, and then boom, you're it's too late now. You're in the pocket dimension. Good luck, idiot. All right, that was a good way to burn up 10 minutes.
Oops, sorry.
This is another one that was less spooky and more sad. A young man went missing late in winter, when realistically no one should be going that far out onto the trails. We close a lot of them, but some remain open year-round, unless there's a shitload of snow. We did an opt for him, but we had about 6 feet of snow on the ground.
Damn.
It was an unusually heavy snow year, and we knew it wasn't likely that we'd find him until spring when the thaw came. Sure enough, when the first big thaw came, a hiker reported a body a little ways off the main trail. We found him at the base of a tree in a pile of melted snow. I knew right away what had happened, and it scared the living shit out of me. Most of you who ski or snowboard or spend any amount of time on a mountain will probably have guessed too. When snow falls, it doesn't collect as thick in the areas beneath the branches. It happens most with fir trees, because they have a sort of closed umbrella shape. So what you end up with is a space around the base of the tree that's filled with a mixture of loose, powdery snow, air, and branches. They're called tree wells, and they're not immediately obvious if you don't know what you're looking for. We put up signs in the Welcome Center, big ones, letting people know how dangerous they are. But every year that we get an unusual amount of snow, at least one person doesn't read them or doesn't take the warning seriously, and we find out about it in the spring. My best guess is that this young man was hiking and got tired, or maybe a cramp from walking in the deep snow. He went to go sit at the base of the tree, not knowing that there was a tree well, and fell in. He got stuck with his feet up, and the surrounding snow caved in around him. Unable to free himself, he suffocated. It's called snow immersion suffocation, and it doesn't usually happen except in really deep snow. But if you get stuck in a weird position, like this guy did, even 6 feet of snow can be lethal. What scared me the most was imagining how he must have struggled, upside down in the freezing cold. He didn't die quickly. The snow would have formed a dense, heavy pile on top of him, and it would have been literally impossible to get out. As it got harder to breathe, he would have known what was happening. I can't even imagine what he was thinking in his last moments.
Good fucking Lord.
Yep. Yeah, that would be, you know what? I'll say it. Not good.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. That's right. Someone had to. A lot of my less outdoorsy friends want to know if I've ever seen the Goat Man while I've been out on calls. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, I've never had anything quite like that happen. I guess the closest was the whole black-eyed man thing, but I didn't see anything. However, there was one call where I had something kind of similar happen, but I'm not sure I'm willing to chalk it up to the Goat Man. We got a report that an older woman had faded along one of our trails and needed assistance getting back down to the main area. We hike up to where she's at, and her husband's just beside himself. He runs, well, I guess more jogs to us, and tells us that he was a little ways off the trail looking at something when his wife started screaming behind him. Runs back to her, and she's passed out on the trail.
We get her on a backboard, and as we're getting her down to the welcome center, she comes to and starts screaming again. I calm her down and ask her what happened. I can't remember verbatim what she said, but essentially, what happened was this. She'd been waiting for her husband when he started hearing this really strange sound. She said it sounded sort of like a cat, but it was off somehow. She couldn't quite figure out why. She went a little ahead to try and hear it better, but it sounded like it was coming closer. She said the closer it got, the more uneasy she was, until she finally figured out what was wrong. I do remember this next part because it was so weird that I don't think I could have forgotten it if I tried.
It wasn't a cat. It was a man saying the word meow over and over. Just meow, meow, meow. But it wasn't a man. It couldn't have been. Because I've never heard a man make his voice buzz like that. I thought my hearing aid was going out, but it wasn't. I adjusted it and it still sounded all buzzy. It was awful. He was coming closer, but I couldn't see him. And the closer he got, the more scared I was. And the last thing I remember was a shape coming out of the trees. And I guess that's when I fainted.
Now, obviously, I'm a little perplexed as to why a guy would be out in the woods chanting meow, meow at people. So once we get down the mountain, I tell my superior that I'm going to go search the area to see if I can find anything. Gives me the go-ahead, and I grab a radio and hike back to where she fainted. I don't see anyone, so I keep going about a mile more. And when I head back, I go off the trail to see if I can figure out where she saw him coming from. It's almost sunset by this point. I don't have any desire to be out at night alone, so I just sort of write it off and make a mental note to check it out again tomorrow. As I'm headed back, I start to hear something in the distance. I stop and I call for anyone in the immediate area to identify themselves. The sound didn't come closer or get louder, but it sounded exactly like a man saying meow, meow in this really odd monotone. As comical as it makes it sound, it was almost like that guy on South Park with the electrolarynx, Ned. I go off the trail in the direction I think it's coming from, but I never seem to get closer. It's almost like it's coming from all directions. Eventually, it just sort of fades out. I ended up going back to the welcome center. I didn't get any further reports like that, and even though I went back to the area, I never heard that exact sound again. I suppose it could have been some stupid kid out there messing with people, but even I have to admit it was weird.
A group of men with like a sexual fetish of being a cat or something is horrifying out there. Of them being like just meow, meow. That within itself is just fucking horrifying. Let alone it being like a paranormal thing or something weird like that. Just men with like a fetish out in the woods fucking with people. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
I think this is probably the thing I remember most from this story besides the stairs. I think all the time about hearing an animal noise and then realizing it's someone making an animal noise.
It's like a man. I always imagine that when like reading this, I just kept imagining like a very bad like an orange morph suit or something, like a skin tight morph suit, like just a shitty outfit the guy has.
Yeah.
He's like crawling around on all fours.
Some big sexual deviant. I like how you don't even put any goat man or supernatural spin on it. It's just a pervert.
Well, I mean, but seriously, how fucking horrifying is that? Fuck
that would be terrifying this far out. Like, imagine a guy like, why are you out here?
Randomly out there? Because then you have to imagine he walked in there normally. At some point, stopped. Like, I'm far out enough here, so he could like, I don't know, role play his like weird fetish thing. Packed up his clothes into a bag, whatever, put it behind a tree, and now he's just like walking around the woods, and now when he sees people walk by, he's like able to fuck with them. Nah, nope, I'm good. No, thank you. I feel like you'd be a good search and rescue officer.
That might be one of the nicest things you've ever said to me. Thank you.
You want to do a role play?
All right.
So you're coming up to me. You're a search and rescue officer. I'm an old woman. And and my leg is broken.
Okay.
So first off,
hold still, ma'am, hold still. We need it. Hold on.
Don't touch me.
Am I by myself here? Am I by myself here?
Do not touch me.
Am I okay?
It
I'm by
hurts.
myself.
It
Ma'am, I need to
hurts.
put a split.
Don't
Ma'am, I need to
touch
put a
me.
splint on this. I need to put a splint on this.
There was a man.
Or otherwise, it's going to get worse.
The man, he's gonna come back. He's gonna kill us. Please be
So
quick.
ma'am, I need you to calm down. Who's going to kill us? Who?
Hello.
Did you hear him?
What? Did someone say hello in a vaguely South American / Spanish accent? What?
He's back. He's back.
He's back. Okay. Well, ma'am, I've got the splint on now. I need you to stay. I think I hear that too, ma'am.
I am over here.
You're over here. Whoever's there, identify yourself.
Oh God, he's back.
I have brought the food.
The food? You've brought food?
Do you see him?
What? Well, I think I'm looking in that direction. I don't. What is he? I'm having trouble seeing.
Describe what you're seeing so I can tell you if it's him or not.
Okay. Well, I'm currently.
Hello, sir. I'm right here.
Role place. Where are you at?
I'm right in front of you. I have brought the food.
Okay, well, since I'm currently in a role play scenario, I don't actually see anything. But clearly, the person who has a leading objective they're getting to with this voice and accent can give me some clues as to what I'm looking at.
I have brought the food.
I'm going to pass out. Just tell me what he looks like so I can verify if it's him.
Okay, he looks like a DoorDash guy. Like
are you Rebecca?
Ma'am, is your name Rebecca?
My name's Sarah.
I'm looking for Rebecca. I have the food.
I think you've got.
What does he look like? What does he look like? Give me actual fist. How tall is he?
He's probably 5'10", tan skin, dark hair.
Oh no! Oh God! What shirt does he have on? Does he have a shirt?
It's horizontal, red and white striped polo.
Sir, I'm trying to drop the bag. I'm gonna need to take a picture.
I don't think that. I think you've got the wrong address. I'm pretty sure you have the wrong address, sir. You know, it's funny because when I entered this scenario, it was over me being a search and rescue officer.
All right, sir.
I've done nothing involving search or rescue.
Have a good day. I have to get out of here. I have other jobs I have to do.
What is it? Is he gone?
Yeah, he's gone. He's walking away.
You hear the bushes move.
What's that? What's that noise? There's bushes over there, man. What? Hey, ma'am, who's my guide in this? But there's bushes moving. I don't see anyone yet. We're gonna have to wait for an indicator so I can have something to work off of to see what that noise might be.
You better go look at what that is to help us.
Ma'am, you're still bleeding.
Yeah,
I put the splint on. I haven't put a.
I don't feel good.
Let me. I'm a search rescue officer here. Here's a tourniquet. Put in a tourniquet on you. It's gonna hurt a lot. Boom! There it is.
I'm more worried about the bush. You should go.
We should get out of here.
Go worry about the bush.
We should leave.
Go check the bush.
I should not go randomly walk to a bush while an old lady has a leg broken in the middle of the trail. We should leave.
Go look at the bush.
I'm up. I'm walking. I'm over at the bush. I'm standing at the bush.
Get out of here.
Who are you, Bush? Identify yourself.
Get out of here.
Who is it?
I've been trying to get out of here since we showed up. I don't know why there was a DoorDash driver in the middle of a hiking trail.
You don't want to help her. Get out of here.
Why don't I want to help her?
What is he saying?
Don't tell her what I just said. You gotta get out of here.
Well, what is he saying?
Okay, okay, ma'am, let's go back to camp. Come on. I'm gonna lift you up. You're on my shoulder, and we're walking back to camp.
Ow.
What?
My leg hurts. I'm walking. Ow.
Okay. All right. I don't know how long this scenario's going on for. Are we to the camp yet? Do we just get there?
Really participate that hard.
You're not giving me anything.
That's wrestling bushes. You have to go. You have to be more. It doesn't matter. We'll end it. I was gonna have the guy be naked. He was gonna say she's wearing my clothes, and then she was gonna be wearing his clothes.
I walked over.
And she was Rebecca.
Wow.
I had a whole thing that was waking up.
I never saw that one coming. You weren't giving. I walked up to the bushes. I spoke. You could have been like, "There's a naked man," or "I'm naked," or something. Instead, you're just like, "Don't trust her."
I'm looking in the bush. What's going on? Because you could have been like, "What, sir? Get out of the bush." And I was gonna say, "I can't. I'm naked."
Why are you playing so coy with me?
That's the game. You have to unveil more. I can't just give you everything. That's the thing.
I'm sorry to role play the way you wanted me to.
Well,
in that scenario.
You never do, especially in the bedroom. see how he's blushing, chat.
We both know that's a lie, considering the horrific text messages you send me unprompted.
Can't you see I'm reaching out? I'm trying to get affection from you. Can't you see I'm desperately reaching out for love?
This does kind of feel like a cat that like walks up to you and starts like pawing at your pants leg.
I'm making bread on your pants. That kind of sounds like I came on your pants. That's not what I'm saying. I mean the thing making biscuits, whatever the fuck it's called.
Okay, yeah, making biscuits is the term for it. Yeah.
I just made bread on your pants.
Don't give them that. Don't give them that. They're too feral as is. You remember all those like old not TikTok, like the old Vine accounts or Tumblr accounts that would just be like YouTube guys, like Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, or like Dan and Phil and stuff, and be edits about how they're secretly in a relationship. I feel like those girls found us because I see those all the time.
There was people that said Markiplier and Jacksepticeye were having sex with each other.
No, they would just make edits where it looked like the two of them like would kiss or stuff like that. Like they wanted them to. What I'm saying is those people found us, so you don't need to give them that much room.
Well, I can tell you right now, Markiplier and Jacksepticeye, those are better looking guys than us.
I would agree with
that. We don't make love. We make slop is what we make.
Okay.
If we did the edits, it would be a mud pit of despair.
God. Okay. All right. We're search and rescue officer. Okay. Into that segment. Mud pit.
What,
so
man?
This kind
What? It's a little dirty.
So this kind of turned into a massive wall of text, and for that I apologize. I wanted to get to the stories my friend told me, and he does have some good ones, so I'll post those tomorrow evening. I also have a few more of my own I think you guys will like. I'm sorry to keep you all in suspense again. Hopefully the stories here make up for it and help you get through the next 24 hours until I can post again. Edit. Since it seems like all of you would like to hear more, tomorrow I'll write up as many stories as I can and do a massive post. I'll include my friends' stories, and I'll see if I can get a hold of a few more people who might have interesting things to talk about. I just wasn't sure how people felt about big, huge walls of text, but if you're all okay with it, I'll post lots of stories. End of part 2.
Part 3, baby. Maybe we can get into some more roleplay too. Hello.
Part 3.
I am here for my DoorDash order.
Part 3. Well, once again, you guys have blown me away with your staggering amount of responses to my stories. What?
Just blow past what I said. You're like, well, once again, you guys have blown me away with your staggering amount of response. It's just funny. I thought that was silly. I can see you being good at DoorDash too, Isaiah.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to answer because that will open up a door for you to want to role play it. So
if you were dropping off a DoorDash order, if you were dropping off a Chick-fil-A order, right? Drop it down, take a picture of it, and the person answered to you and they were wearing a kimono of an extremely obese, huge. Basically, if I was sitting there and I was all bald, hairless, and I was wearing a kimono, a sheer kimono that had it was like jade green, and I had a long brown Fu Manchu at the door, and I was just like, "Thank you so much." Would you engage in conversation with that person, or would you just leave it and be like, "Okay, have a good one"?
I would do what I would do for every client. Have a good one.
All right. First off, don't refer to your DoorDash recipients as clients, because that's not appropriate. That seems like, it's not that business it's not that business formal. I should say.
What do you want me to call them? The hogs
Customers.
I feed slop?
Well, yes. If a large obese man in a kimono with a brown Fu Manchu, yes, you can call him a hog. Here's your fried chicken sandwich, pig, is what you should say. Oh my God! What if he had a katana? What if he was holding a katana? Would you? Hey man, you want to play?
He goes to answer. He goes to answer the DoorDash driver with a weapon.
Well, he opens the front door because you just left it there, and he has a katana. He's like, "Hey man, you want to come inside and play Star Fox?"
No, I've got other orders. Sorry.
He grips it with both hands, like puts it in like a combat position.
I can tell. No, sorry, sir. I've got other orders. I can tell the guy that is currently setting up this scenario really wants me to come inside and play Star Fox for some bit he has set up. But I have a job to do, which is read a scary story. So have a good one. Take care.
All right, no problem, man. Have a good day. God bless.
There you go. There you go.
I'd imagine that he struck a pose like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon with the sword. He had like the two fingers up and he was holding the sword like this, whatever. Yeah, that'd be sick. I said, come in and play Star Fox. I mean, I'd probably fucking go in and play Star Fox. I mean, I'd be kind of scared.
I can't do it anymore.
I'm sorry. It's too many random tangents. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Maybe one day I'll be brave enough.
You want to come in here and get into a little trouble? What if I said that to you? Uh-oh. No, thank you, sir. I still have orders. All right. Just know my door's always open.
There's no way I can respond to each of you individually, so I'm just going to address some common things again, and then move on to the stories. I'm going to write as many as I can think of, in addition to my friends' stories, and I will probably not update again until I get a chance to answer some questions that I myself have for my superiors. Alright, so common questions I find you all had. I'm not comfortable talking about where exactly I work, unfortunately. In all reality, some of the things I've mentioned here could get me in a lot of trouble or fired, so it's best if I just don't discuss them too much. I will say that I'm in the US, and in the area that is comprised of a great deal of wilderness. We're talking hundreds of miles of thick forest, with a mountain range and a few lakes. There's still a great amount of interest in the stairs, and luckily for you guys, my friend has a story that I think you all will be interested in. I'll go into them more at the end of this update. As for whether or not I have ever thought of asking my superiors about them, I have, but again, I don't want to risk my job. However, one of my former superiors no longer works as a search and rescue officer, and it's possible that he may be willing to talk to me about it. I'll be speaking to him later in the week, and I'll let you all know what comes of that. As far as advice on becoming a search and rescue officer goes, I think the best advice I can give is to contact your local Forest Service office and see if they offer training courses, or what the qualifications are. I've been doing this for years, and I started out as a volunteer helping on search and rescue operations. It's a great job, despite the occasional tragic situations, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. All right, so let's move on to the stories. The first happened on a case that I went on right after I got out of training, and was still pretty new to everything. Before I took this job, I was a volunteer, so I had a basic idea of what to expect. But on those calls, you're mostly dealing with finding lost people after vets have found signs of them. As a search and rescue officer, you go out for all kinds of cases, from animal bites to heart attacks. This case got called in early in the morning from a young couple who were up on one of the trails that goes by the lake. The husband was completely hysterical, and we couldn't really figure out what was going on. We could hear the woman screaming in the background, and he was begging for us to come up there right away. When we get there, we see him holding his wife. She's got something in her arms. She's screaming these awful, almost animal-like screams, and he's sobbing. He sees us, and he screams at us to help them. Please, get an ambulance up here. Now, obviously, we can't just drive an ambulance up the walking path, so we ask him if his wife needs help or if she can walk on her own. He's still hysterical, but he manages to tell us that it's not his wife that needs help. I go over. Can you hear the dog barking?
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me. Actually, I mean, like that one, I was like, oh my God. Kind of got me. I was like, getting into the story.
So there's people at the house working on it right now. And Benny hates company. So I lock him in the bedroom and turn on bird feeder cameras because he just watches the birds. And like he just stays locked in, stares at them. But when the birds get into fights, he gets really fired up.
Oh shit, really?
Like if the birds start like squawking at each other, he gets in on it. He jumps up and starts barking. So that's what that was. I go over while one of the vets tries to calm him down, and I ask the wife what's going on. She's rocking, holding something, just shrieking over and over. I crouch down and see that whatever she's holding is covering her with blood. That's when I notice the sling on her front, and my heart sinks. I ask her to tell me what's going on, and I sort of pry her arms gently open so I can see what she's holding. It's her baby, obviously dead. His head is caved in on one side, and he's covered in scratches. Now, I've seen dead bodies before, but something about this whole situation hits me hard. I have to take a second to compose myself, and I get up and go get one of the other vets who's standing by. I tell him that it's a dead kid, and he sort of pats my shoulder and tells me he'll deal with it. Took us over an hour to get this woman to let us see her kid. Every time we try to take it from her, she flips out and tells us we can't have him, that it'll be okay if we just leave her alone and let her help him. Eventually, one of the vets manages to calm her down, and she gives us the body. Took it back to the med area, but when the EMTs showed up, they told us there was never any hope of saving the kid. He died instantly from the trauma to his head. I was good buddies with one of the nurses who met them at the hospital, and she told me later what had happened. Turns out the couple had been walking with the baby in the sling. They stopped because the kid was fussing. Dad takes the kid and is holding him, looking out over the little gully by the path. The mom comes to stand next to him. She ends up stepping on a loose patch of soil, and she trips. She falls into the dad, who drops the kid, who ends up falling about 20 feet down this little gully onto the rocks at the bottom. Dad climbed down and recovered the kid, but he'd fallen right on his head and was dead by the time he got there. The baby was only about 15 months old. Total freak accident. A series of events that coalesced into the worst possible outcome. Probably one of the more awful calls I've been on. I haven't seen a lot of animal bites in my time as a search and rescue officer, mostly because there aren't that many animals that come around the area. While there are bears in the area, they tend to stay pretty far away from people, and sightings are highly unusual. Most of the animals you'll see are small ones like coyotes, raccoons, or skunks. What we do see frequently, though, are moose. And let me tell you, moose are nasty guys. They'll chase after anything for any reason. God help you if you get in between a female and its baby. One of the more amusing calls was the guy who'd gotten chased down by an absolutely massive male moose and was stuck up a tree. Took us almost an hour to get him down, and when he was finally on solid ground again, he looks at me and says,
"God damn, them fuckers is big up close."
I guess that's not really a scary story, but we still laugh about that one.
God damn.
Honestly, don't know if... Yeah. Honestly, don't know if I'd forgotten this story, but it is by far the scariest thing that's happened to me. I guess maybe I've tried so long to forget about it that I just didn't come to mind right away. As someone who spends literally all of their time in the woods, you don't ever want to let yourself get scared of being alone or out in the middle of nowhere. That's why when you have experiences like this, tend to just forget about them and move on. This is, to date, the only thing that's ever made me really seriously consider if this job is the right one for me. I don't really like talking about it much, but I'll do the best I can to remember it at all. As I recall, this took place right at the end of spring. It was a typical lost child call. A 4-year-old girl had wandered away from her parents' campsite and had been missing for about 2 hours. Her parents were completely despondent and told us what most parents do. My kid would never wander away. She's so good about staying close. She's never done anything like this before. We assured the parents that we'll do everything we can to find her, and we spread out in a standard search formation. I was partnered with one of my good buddies, and we were sort of casually holding conversations while we hiked. I know it sounds callous, but you do sort of become desensitized when you've done this long enough. It becomes the norm, and I think to a certain extent, you have to learn to desensitize yourself in order to work this job. We searched for a good 2 hours, going well beyond where we think she'd be. and we come out at a small valley when something makes us both stop in unison. We freeze and look at each other. There's almost a sensation like a plane depressurizing. My ears pop and I have this odd sensation of having dropped about 10 feet. I start to ask my buddy if he felt that. Before I can, we hear the loudest sound I've ever heard in my life. It's almost like a freight train passing directly by us, but it's coming from every direction at once, including above and below us. He screams something to me, but I can't hear him over this deafening roar. Understandably freaked out, we look all around us, trying to find the source of the sound, but neither of us sees anything. Of course, my first thought is a landslide, but we're not near any cliffs. And even if we were, it would have hit us by now. The sound goes on, and we're trying to yell to each other, but even standing close together, we can't hear anything but this sound. Then, as suddenly as it starts, it stops, like someone threw a switch and cut it off. We stand there for a second, perfectly still, and slowly the normal sounds of the woods come back. He asked me what just happened. I kind of shrug, and we stand there looking at each other for a minute. I get on the radio and ask if anyone else just heard the end of the world, but no one else hears it, even though we're all within shouting distance of each other. My buddy and I just sort of shrug it off and keep going. It's great.
God, fuck, what?
You know, it happens, things like that. About an hour later, we all check up on the radios, and no one's found the little girl. Most of the time, we won't search when it gets dark, but because we don't have any kind of lead on her, a few of us decide to keep going, including me and my buddy. We keep close together, and we're calling out for her every couple of minutes. At this point, I'm hoping beyond hope that we find her, because while I may not like kids, the idea of them being out all alone in the dark is awful. The woods can be intimidating to kids in the daylight. At night, well, it's a whole different beast. But we're not seeing any signs of her, or getting any responses. And around midnight, we decided to turn around and head back to the rendezvous point. We're about halfway back when my buddy stops and shines his light to the right of us into a really thick deadfall, or group of dead trees. I ask him if he's heard a response. He just tells me to be quiet a second and listen. I do, and in the distance, I can hear what sounds like a kid crying.
Nope.
We both called the girl's name and listened for any kind of response, but it's just this really faint crying. We head in the direction of this deadfall and go around it, calling her name over and over. As we get closer to the crying, I start getting this weird feeling in my gut, and I tell my buddy that something isn't right. He tells me he feels the same way, but we can't figure out what it is. We stop where we are and call the girl's name again. At the same time, we both figure it out. The crying is on a loop. It's the same little hitching sob, then wail, then quiet hiccup, repeated over and over. It's exactly the same every time, and without saying another word, we both take off running. It's the only time I've ever lost my composure like that, but something about it was so incredibly wrong, and neither of us wanted to stay out there anymore. When we got back to the rendezvous, we asked if anyone else had heard anything strange, but no one else knew what we were talking about. I know it sounds sort of anticlimactic, but that call messed me up for a long time. As for the little girl, we never found a trace of her. We keep an eye out for her and all the other people who we've never found, but frankly, I doubt we'll ever find anything. That one, I like that one a lot. The idea of figuring out the cryings on a loop is terrifying.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't think I like that one.
Man, that's so effective though, isn't it? Like realizing that the girl you're going for, it's like the same, like the same little tones over and over.
Fuck that.
It's almost like the noise they heard, the loud noise, was maybe this girl being taken or crossed over. Like that's the sound of like a dimensional rift or something. And now whatever entity's out here is wearing her face. It's like using her voice as a lure to get more people to come out. But it's bad at it. It's bad at like the stairs in the woods. The mimicry is not perfect. There's like an offness to it. I love the idea of hearing animal noises and realizing they're human, or hearing human noises and realizing they're automated. That's creepy. Of the missing persons calls I've gone out on, only a handful have ever resulted in a complete disappearance, meaning no trace of the person and no body ever found. But sometimes, finding a body just leads to more questions than answers. Here's some of the bodies we found that have become infamous in our team. A teenage boy whose remains were recovered almost a year after he vanished. We found the top of his skull, 2 finger bones, and his camera almost 40 miles from where he was last seen. The camera, sadly, was destroyed. The pelvis of an older man who had vanished a month earlier. That was all we found. The lower jaw and right foot of a 2-year-old boy on the highest peak of a ridge in the southern part of the park. The body of a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome, almost 20 miles from where she'd vanished. She died of exposure 3 weeks after going missing, and all of her clothes were intact except for her shoes and jacket. There were berries and cooked meat in her stomach when they did the autopsy.
Ugh.
Coroner said it appeared as if someone had been taking care of her. There were no suspects ever identified. Now that's messed up.
That's very, very fucked.
Something out there's been feeding her up until her death, like the boy that was shoved into the rock.
It's very odd. It's like sometimes it feels like things are like taking care of them, like it's not super malicious, but yeah, I don't know. That's fucking creepy.
The frozen body of a 1-year-old baby, found a week after vanishing in the hollow trunk of a tree 10 miles from the area he was last seen. There was fresh milk found in his stomach, but his tongue was gone.
Oh my God.
See, stuff like that, right?
Okay.
Where it's
All right,
like they were being taken care of, but there's also like a mutilation associated with it.
Yeah. Ugh.
A single vertebra and right kneecap of a 3-year-old girl found in the snow almost 20 miles from the campground her family had been at the previous summer. Now, on to a couple of the stories my friend told me. I mentioned that you were all interested in the stairs, and you're in luck. He's had a closer encounter with them. Though he doesn't have any explanation for them, he does have a bit more experience with them than I do. My buddy's been a search and rescue officer for about 7 years. He started when he was a junior in college, and he had a very similar experience when he first encountered the stairs. His trainer told him almost the same thing mine did, which was to never go near, touch, or ascend them. For the first year, he did just that. But apparently his curiosity got the better of him, and on one call he broke away from the line and went to go check a set of them out. He said they were about 10 miles from the path where a teenage girl had vanished, and the dogs were following a scent. He was on his own, lagging behind the main group, when he saw a set of stairs off to his left. They looked like they were from a new house, because the carpeting was pristine and white. He said that as he got closer, he didn't feel any different or hear any weird noises. He was expecting something to happen, like bleeding from his ears or collapsing, but he got right up next to them and didn't feel anything. The only thing, he said, that was odd was that there was absolutely no debris on the steps. No dirt, leaves, dust, anything. And there didn't appear to be any signs of animal or insect activity in the immediate area, which she found strange. It was less like things were avoiding them and more like they just happened to be in a relatively barren part of the forest. He touched the stairs and didn't feel anything except that sort of sticking feeling you get from new carpet. Making sure his radio was on, he slowly climbed the stairs. Said it was terrifying, because the way they'd been stigmatized, he wasn't really sure what was going to happen to him. He joked that half of him expected to be teleported to some other dimension, and the other half was watching for a UFO to come swooping down. But he got to the top with little event. He stood there looking around. But, he said, the longer he stood at the top step, the more he felt like he was doing something very, very wrong. He described it as the feeling you'd get if you were in the part of a government building that you have no business being in. As if someone was going to come and arrest you or shoot you in the back of the head at any second. Tried to brush it off, but the feeling got stronger, stronger, and that's when he realized that he couldn't hear anything anymore. Sounds of the forest were gone, and he couldn't hear his own breathing. It was like some kind of weird, awful tinnitus, but more oppressive. He climbed back down and rejoined the search, and didn't mention what he'd done. But, he said, the weirdest part came after. His trainer was waiting back at the welcome center after the search ended for the day, and he cornered my buddy before he could leave. He said his trainer had this look of intense anger, and he asked what was wrong.
You went up them, didn't you?
My buddy said it wasn't phrased as a question. He asked how his trainer knew. The trainer just shook his head.
Because we didn't find her. The dogs lost her scent.
My buddy asked what that had to do with anything. The trainer asked how long he'd been on the stairs, and my buddy said no more than a minute. The trainer gave him this really awful, almost dead-eyed look and told him that if he ever went up another set of stairs again, he'd be fired immediately. The trainer walked away, and I guess he's never answered any of the questions my buddy had asked about it since. Now that's cool. I like the idea that if someone goes up the staircase, someone goes missing.
Well, it just makes sense at this point too, right? I mean, you're sitting
either
there.
The person on the staircase or someone in the woods. I like that. I like the idea that it's like a trade.
Odd. I mean, no likey.
My buddy has been involved in a lot of missing persons cases where there's never been a trace of them found. I mentioned David Politis. My buddy said he can confirm that those stories are, for the most part, accurate. He said that most of the time, if the person isn't found right away, they're either never found, or they're found weeks, months, or years later, places they can't possibly have gone to. One story he told me really stood out that involved a 5-year-old boy with a severe mental disability. The little boy vanished from a picnic area in the late fall. In addition to the mental disability, he was also physically handicapped. His parents explained over and over that he simply could not have vanished. It was impossible. Someone had to have taken him. My buddy said they searched for this kid for weeks, going miles out of the accepted range, but it was like he'd never been there. The dogs couldn't pick up a scent anywhere, not even in the picnic area where he'd apparently vanished from. Suspicion fell on the parents, but it was pretty clear that they were devastated and hadn't done anything sinister to their kid. Search was concluded about a month later, and my buddy said everyone had pretty much forgotten it by later in the winter. He was out on a training op in the snow on one of the higher peaks when he came across something in the snow. He said he saw it from far away at first. When he got closer, he realized it was a shirt, frozen and sticking part of the way out of the powder. He recognized it as belonging to the kid because it had a distinctive pattern. About 20 yards away, found the kid's body, laying partially buried in the snow. My buddy said there was no way the kid had been dead for more than a few days, even though he'd been missing for almost 3 months. The kid was curled around something. When my buddy brushed off the snow to see what it was, he said he almost couldn't believe what he was seeing. It was a big chunk of ice that had been carved crudely to look like a sort of person. The kid was holding it so tight that it had frostbitten his chest and hands, which my buddy could tell even with the decay that had taken place. He radioed the rest of the crew, and they took the body off the mountain. Now, he recapped all of this for me, and to put it simply, there was no way this kid could have both survived for almost 3 months on his own or have gotten to this peak. There was no physical way this child could have walked almost 50 miles and ended up on the top of the damn mountain. To top it off, there was nothing in the kid's stomach or colon. Nothing. Not even water. It was, like my buddy said, the kid had been taken off the face of the earth, put in suspended animation, and dropped on this mountain months later, only to die of exposure. He's never really gotten over that one. Yeah, I would argue that that's a hard one to get over. It's the kind of thing some would never get over.
Does it seem like there's a correlation with like mentally ill people, basically? Because like this person had a mental disability, there was another one that had a mental disability. Have you noticed that?
Yes,
it seems like there's a string of people that just like mentally disabled people seem to be targeted.
Mentally disabled and children. I think it's the idea that maybe if not being preyed upon easier, they're more trusting to like go away with figures
innocence,
like the scary faced man and stuff
almost
like that.
Almost like preying on innocence or something like that. Probably.
Yeah, like the innocence of it is what leads them. Also, what was that thing about the ice person? It's similar to the no-face person on top of the mountain, that there's stuff that like there's these featureless figures that look like people but aren't up there. There's some connections you can draw. I like how there's enough hints that you can draw connections between things, but there's never like, oh, this is how it works or this is what it does.
Well, yeah, because if you gave that much too, then not only would it lose its mystique, but then also it like wouldn't be there would be a mystery element anymore. Like the more that we know about it, the less the story has that exciting thrill to it. You know, it's got to keep that campfire edge.
I agree. The last story I'll share from him was one that took place relatively recently, only a few months ago. They were out doing a recon for mountain lions because there had been several reports of sightings in the last couple of days. One of our jobs is to scout out the areas where these animals are seen to ensure that if they are in the area, we can warn people and close off those trails. He was out on his own in a very heavily forested part of the park toward dusk when he heard what sounded like a woman screaming in the distance. Now, as most of you know, when a mountain lion screams, it sounds almost exactly like a woman being brutally murdered. It's unsettling, but far from abnormal. My buddy radioed back and let Ops know he'd heard one, and that he was going to keep going to see if he could figure out where its territory started. He heard the mountain lion scream a couple more times, always from the same spot, and determined the approximate area of the mountain lion's territory. He was about to head back when he heard another scream, this time within only a few yards of him. Of course, he freaks out and starts heading back at a much faster pace because the last thing he wants is to run into a damn mountain lion and get mauled to death. As he got back on the path and started heading back, the screaming followed him, and he broke into a jog. When he was about a mile from Ops, the screaming stopped, and he turned around to see if it was following him. It was almost night by this point, but he said in the distance, just before the path rounded a corner, he could see what looked like a male figure. He called out to them, warning them that the paths were closed and that he needed to come back to the welcome center. The figure just stood there. My buddy started to walk over. When he was about 10 yards away, the figure took, as he described, an impossibly long step toward him and let out the same scream my buddy had been hearing. My buddy didn't even say anything. He just turned and sprinted back to Ops, never looking behind him. By the time he got back, the screaming had moved back into the woods. He didn't mention it to anyone else. He just said that there was a mountain lion in the area, that they would need to close those paths until the animal could be located and moved. Dude, no.
The idea of an impossibly long step is so haunting. I don't know. I don't know why, but
because in your head you're trying to picture what that looks like, and it's like, what do you mean an impossibly long step? Like it's floating as it's stepping almost. Ugh. That's great, man. The author knows how to. I'm not just glazing them because they're a friend, but man, to put that level of detail. Like all these little things that like make the scares play out so well. Like the crying was on a loop. It was a person saying to meow, an impossibly long step. Like these little accents that go so far.
The girl on loop though is by far the scariest. The little girl crying on loop.
That one's pretty good.
Yeah, that one's
because it's
fucked.
like you're looking for her and you're just like, oh, she's right around here, but then you realize it's a thing that's using her voice. Yeah, that's solid. The impossibly long step though. That's fun. That's a fun visual.
I love a nice uncanny step. You're like, what?
Yeah. Yep.
Also feels like he can get to you so much quicker. You're like, nope, and just start running.
No. I'm good. Yeah, he's walking, but it's faster than your sprint. We're going to end this story here since it's turned into a huge wall of text. I'm going to be heading out on a yearly training op tomorrow morning, so I'll be gone until early next week. I'll be meeting with a lot of former trainers and buddies who work in other areas of the park, and I'll be asking around about any stories they'd like to share. I'm so glad you guys have been interested in my stories. Once I'm back from this op, I'll continue to share them. And that is the end of part 3. Part 4. Hey guys, back from my training op, and I have a lot of really interesting stories to share with you. I've got enough that I'm going to break them up into 2 parts, this being the first. I'd love to put them all in one entry, but I just haven't had a chance to write them all down yet. Didn't have anything too crazy happen while I was out there, but we did have one incident with a rookie that I found relevant. Since I'm sure you guys have been waiting for these, I'll just get right into the stories. I'll assign each batch of stories to the person who told them to me. KD. KD is a vet who's been a search and rescue officer for about 15 years. She specializes in high elevation mountain rescues and is widely considered one of the best in her field. She was one of the more enthusiastic storytellers, and since we were together a fair amount during exercises, she ended up telling me about 4 that really stuck with me. The first she told me in response to my asking about her most traumatic calls. She shook her head and told me that really bad calls happen more frequently on the mountain, since the potential for nasty accidents is higher. About 5 years ago, one of the parks she worked at had a string of disappearances. It was a bad year, she said. One of the worst on record as far as weather went. They were getting about a foot of new snow every couple of days, and there were a few avalanches that killed some climbers. They warned people about staying on the mapped areas, but of course, there was always those who don't listen. In one particularly nasty case, an entire family got wiped out because their father decided he knew better than the officials, and he took them out into an area that wasn't safe. They were snowshoeing, and as best Katie could figure, they walked onto a shelf of snow that looked solid, but actually wasn't. It gave way, and this family went ass over tea kettle almost 300 feet down a slope. They landed on the rocks at the bottom, and the parents died instantly. One of the kids did as well, but the other two survived. One had a broken leg and fractured ribs. The other was almost unharmed, save for some bruising and a sprained ankle. The uninjured child left his sibling behind and set out to help him. Katie said the kid didn't make it more than a half mile before a storm overtook him. Kid stopped to try and get warm or maybe just to rest and ended up freezing to death.
Good God.
They ended up finding the family with the help of some witnesses who saw them heading out into the wilderness, and she was the one to find the kid who'd frozen to death looking for help. She said it had started to snow, just enough to obscure long-distance vision, but not enough to make searching impossible. She saw a figure sitting in the snow up ahead, and she got to it as quickly as possible. She described in detail how as she got closer, she realized first that it was a child, second that they were deceased, and third that they had frozen in one of the most pitiful positions she's ever found a corpse in. The kid was sitting upright, with his knees tucked up against his chest. His arms were curled around them, and his head was tucked up into his coat. As she moved the coat to look at his face, she saw that he died crying. His face was twisted and the tears were frozen on his cheeks. She said it was painfully obvious that the kid was terrified when he succumbed to hypothermia, and as a mother, it broke her heart. She told me repeatedly that she hopes the father is burning in hell as we speak. The other traumatic story she told me that stood out in my mind was one that happened when she was a rookie. Her team got a report of an experienced climber who hadn't come home the previous day. His wife was convinced that something bad had happened because he never failed to come home on time. They went out looking for him and had to climb what sounded like some very technically challenging parts of the mountain. They got to a relatively flat area, and Katie started seeing blood in the snow. She followed the trail, and as she went, she started seeing little bits of tissue. She wasn't sure exactly what body part it had come from, but the further she followed it, more there was. She followed this blood and tissue trail to a sheltered area under a cliff face, and she finds the climber. She said there was so much blood, more than she'd ever seen before. He was lying face down, one arm stretched in front of him, as if he died crawling. She looks closer and sees that he's been partially disemboweled, which is where the tissue had come from. The guy has an ice pick tucked into a hip holster, and it's covered in blood. Of course, they'll never be sure exactly what happened, but she said as best she can figure, this is what went down. Guy had been attempting to climb up to the next area and had been using his ice axe to ascend. He probably hit a loose patch and had fallen. On the way down, or possibly when he landed, he got impaled by the axe, and it disemboweled him. He dragged himself along, tearing pieces of himself out as he went, and died under the cliff face. She isn't terribly bothered by gore, but I guess a few of the guys who came to help her remove the body threw up when they turned him over, and a good portion of his intestines spilled out.
Jesus.
I like all the real stories mixed in with the supernatural ones, you know?
It almost feels too like the real stories are the ones that I'm more like the more I'm like, oh my God. I always feel like I'm hit heavier with the real ones. I think just because it does have such a, I don't know, like it's less fantastical and you're like, oh man, that's horrible that, you know, but it feels fake because it's a bug man or whatever the fuck it is. But other things you're like, oh my God, putting yourself in that position is fucking horrifying.
That could just happen to someone, a lot of the things. I mentioned to her that I was interested in hearing about any experiences she had with people completely disappearing. Her eyes light up and she leans in close to me.
Want to hear a real doozy?
She tells me about how, when she first started, there was a case that got a lot of attention in the media. A family had been out berry picking in an area of the forest very close to the entrance of the park. They had 2 little boys, both under the age of 5, and at some point during the day, one of them vanishes. There's an absolutely massive search, and they find absolutely nothing. It's another of those cases where it's like the kid was never there in the first place. The dogs just sit down and don't pick up on anything. No trace of the kid is found. Search goes on for about 2 months, but is eventually called off. Fast forward to 6 months later. The family comes back to place flowers at a memorial that had been set up for the kid. They bring their other son. While they're placing the flowers, they lose sight of the kid for about 3 seconds, and in that span of time, he vanishes into thin air. Now, obviously, parents are beyond devastated. It's awful enough to lose one child, but to lose two is beyond imagining. Search is huge, one of the largest in state history. There are about 300 volunteers combing every inch of the park looking for the kid. But again, there's no trace of him. The search goes on for about a week, with people looking miles from the part of the park he vanished from. And then, almost 2 weeks later, a volunteer almost 15 miles from the designated search area radios in that he's found the kid. They assume that the kid was dead, but the volunteer says he's not only alive, he's in good shape. Katie and her team go out to recover the kid, and when they get there, she can't believe that this is the kid that's been missing. His clothes are clean, no dirt on him anywhere, and he doesn't appear traumatized. Volunteer says he found the kid sitting on a log, playing with a little twig bundle that's bound together with some old rope. Katie asks him where he's been, who he was with out here for those 2 weeks, and the kid tells her that he's been with the Fuzzy Man. Now, Katie firmly believes in Bigfoot, so she gets all excited and asks what he means by fuzzy. Was he hairy? The kid says no, he wasn't hairy. He was a fuzzy man, and he describes a man that's blurry, like when you close your eyes, but not all the way closed. He says the man... Oh, that's so good. Oh, man, the fuzzy man, and he's like a blur. Oh, that's great. He says the man came out of the trees and took the kid with him deep into the woods. The kid says he slept in a hollow tree and the fuzzy man gave him berries to eat. Katie asks if the man was mean. He scares the kid, and the kid says,
"No, he wasn't scary, but I didn't like how he didn't have eyes."
Oh, that's normal. That happens out here.
Katie's just like, stands up and just starts crying. Goes to another room. I'll be right back. Goes to another room and just starts crying.
Yeah, 1 second. Would you mind? Excuse me real quick. Just have to go to the little explorer's room. Katie says they got the kid back to headquarters, and a cop takes him into town to talk to him more about what happened. She's friends with the cop that talked to him, and she said the kid described being kept in this tree by the fuzzy man and given berries whenever he was hungry. He was allowed to wander around a very specific clearing, but when he tried to go further, the fuzzy man would get mad and yell real loud, even though he didn't have a mouth. When the kid got scared at night, the fuzzy man made it go brighter, gave him the twig bundle. He said the fuzzy man was going to keep him, but he had to let him go because the kid wasn't the right kind.
Okay. You're not the right kind of kid. No thanks.
He either can't or won't elaborate more on that. The cops are just sort of left scratching their heads. The search for his brother is renewed with no results. Kid has no idea where his brother might be, and they never find him. Well, it's that kind of thing happens sometimes, I guess. I love the idea of like the fuzzy man, how it's a creature with like no eyes, no mouth. And the kid just describes it as like a blur, like fuzzy. That's so uncanny. And like when it's dark, he would make it go brighter, or whatever that means. So good.
It's very. I like the very childlike name. That does feel like it would be like, oh, it's like a Sasquatch kind of thing or an animal, but no, it's literally a child just describing like basically an aberration, right? Some kind of like just like almost weird noise that's like populating in the actual physical space. Very odd.
It also makes you think like, what is this connected to some of the other stuff we've seen? Like, is this connected to the bug man? Is this connected to the scary faced man or the bear man mentioned earlier? Are these all one and the same? Are these different entities? Again, it gives you enough to ask questions, but not answers. The last story that Katie told me was of something that happened to her when she got separated from her training group when she was a rookie. They were learning the basics of high elevation belaying on a well-mapped side of the mountain, and she had to use the bathroom. She went off about 50 yards from the group during a meal break and did her business. I'll tell the rest exactly as she told it to me.
So, I go to take a piss. But once I'm done, I start going back to the group. But I've only gone about 5 feet when I realize that I have no idea where I am. And this wasn't I got turned around, lost. I mean, I had literally no fucking clue where I was. If you ask me, I don't even think I'd been able to tell what state we were in. It was sort of how I imagine people with amnesia feel, you know? You're completely lost and you have no idea what to do. So I stood there for a while, just trying to figure out where the fuck I was and what I was supposed to do. But the longer I stand there, the more confused and turned around I get. So I started walking. As I recall, I just picked up a random direction and went for it. And as I'm walking, just getting worse and worse to the point where I have no concept of why I'm on the mountain in the first place. I'm just trudging through the snow, and then I start hearing this voice. It's kind of inside my head, almost like if a frog could talk, all low and croaky, and it's telling me over and over, "It's okay, it's okay. You just need to find something to eat. Find something to eat.
Hello,
You'll be okay.
banana.
Just keep walking and find something to eat."
Sorry, I was away for a moment.
Eat. So
I was
start
helping
looking
bring
around
some
for anything I
groceries
could
in.
eat, and I swear to God, I've never felt that hungry in my whole life. It was bottomless. I think I'd eaten just about anything you put in front of me right then. I had no concept of time, so I had no idea how long I'd been out when I hear an actual voice coming towards me. I go forward and see one of the other search and rescue officers, and he looks fucking terrified. He's running towards me, asking if I'm okay and what the hell I'm doing out here. And the scary thing was, as he's running toward me, I kind of see myself reaching to my belt for my hunting knife. I'm not really even thinking about what I'm doing. But what I'm thinking is that I have to eat. If I don't eat, I'll never be okay again. So I just have to eat. He sees me doing that and he backs off right away. He yells at me to put my knife away and he's not going to hurt me. And that's kind of snaps me back. All of a sudden, I know exactly where I am, and I put the knife away. I run to him and ask how long I've been gone, thinking he'd tell me I've been gone for half an hour or so, but he tells me I've been gone for 2 fucking days. I've gone over 2 peaks, ended up almost on the other side of the mountain, and if I'd keep going, I would have ended up wandering into about 300 miles of wilderness. They never found me. He can't believe I'm not dead. And of course, I don't know what the fuck to think. To me, no time has passed at all. I don't say anything. I just go back with them to the rendezvous point, and I'm taken to the HQ to be airlifted to the hospital. When I get there, they do all kinds of tests and try to figure out what happened. As best they can guess, I had some kind of weird fugue state, which is kind of like amnesia or a weird seizure that knocked my brain out of whack, but the truth is that we don't really know. It's never happened again. But I'll tell you, ever since then, I never go out there alone. People rag on me for making them come with me when I have to go leave the group, but I just tell them that listening to me piss in the snow is better than losing me for 2 fucking days on a freezing mountain. Do you think that was the Fuzzy Man too?
Could be. That almost sounded like Wendigo in nature. Like the whole, you have to eat something. You have like the hunger that consumes you. She just cannibalizes her buddy in the middle of the woods.
I think
could be.
The idea though of having to find something to eat, it's one of those things of like putting somebody into a state of like they have no idea what's going on, amnesia basically, and being like you have to find something to eat. So now they just keep wandering deeper and deeper into the forest. Like I wonder if they were never like they'll never find something, but then coming across just the person, you know, like if it would have found any kind of animal, they probably would have just ate it raw, alive or whatever. Kind of interesting.
Compel like the hunger, like some supernatural sense overwhelms them. EW. The next person I talked to is EW, a former trainer who now works as an EMT. He still comes to ops like this to help out, but doesn't work full-time for us anymore. He specialized in finding lost kids. He seemed to have a sixth sense when it came to knowing where they'd gone. He's a legend among the more senior vets, but he gets embarrassed if you compliment him on his work. He sat down with me at dinner one evening and ended up swapping stories. Most of them were just casual, but when we got on the subject of our weirder calls, I mentioned that I'd had a buddy who'd gone up a set of stairs. Got kind of quiet and asked me if I heard of a little boy who disappeared from this park a few years back. I hadn't, so he tells me the story. They were out looking for this 11-year-old boy, Joey, who'd gone missing near a river. Of course, the first thought was that he'd fallen in and drowned. But when they brought dogs out, they led search and rescue officers away from the river and up into a very densely forested area. When we do searches for people, we search in a grid pattern, and we search every box of the grid incredibly thoroughly. What EW's team noticed right away was that a very strange pattern was emerging. Dogs in alternating boxes were picking up Joey's scent, but losing it when they overlapped with another box. If you think of it like a checkerboard, Joey's scent was being picked up in random black squares, but never in red. This, of course, didn't make any sense. Because how could the kid bounce from area to area without leaving a scent in each place he passed? EW and his partner pass into a new box of the grid, and EW notices a set of stairs about 50 yards away. He tells his partner that they need to go check near it, but his partner flat out refuses. He tells EW that he's made it a point never to go near any stairs he sees, and that while it may be routine, he's not to pretend that it's normal. He tells EW that he'll wait in sight while EW checks. EW says he was irritated, but he felt for the guy and didn't push him on the subject.
I walked over to the stairs. They were small, kind of like stairs into a basement. I don't really feel strongly one way or the other about them. The stairs, I mean. So I wasn't scared or anything. I guess I'm like everyone else. I just prefer not to think about them too much. Anyway, I went over and I could see that there was something lying on the bottom step, sort of curled up. My heart sinks because, of course, you always hope for the best, and we were confident that we'd find this kid alive because he'd only been missing for a few hours, but I knew right away that it was him and that he was dead. He was curled up in a little ball on the step, holding his stomach. It looked like he'd been in horrible pain when he died. I didn't see any blood except some on his lips and chin. I radioed in that I found him, and we got his body back to command. My poor family, they were devastated. Parents could understand how he'd be dead, because he'd only been gone for such a short amount of time. And on top of that, we didn't have any obvious cause of death, which just made it worse. I figured he'd probably eaten something poisonous since he was holding his stomach when I found him, but I didn't want to guess. It's hard enough to hear that your kid is dead, let alone have some stupid search and rescue officer guy guessing about what happened. They took him away, and I went home and tried not to think about it. I hate finding dead kids, man. I love this job, but it's just one of those reasons I left. I got 2 daughters, and the thought of losing them that way just...
You choked up a little here. I'm not great with emotional stuff like that, and it's always sort of awkward to see a grown man cry, so I didn't really know what to do. Pulled himself together eventually, though, and kept going.
We'd always hear back from the coroners about cause of death. It's not really our job to know, I guess, and sometimes if they think it's foul play, they won't tell us because of legal bullshit, but I've got a friend who works for the sheriff's department, and he usually pass along any interesting info if I ask. In this case, though, I actually got a call from him about a week later. He asked if I remember the kid, and of course I do. He says some seriously weird shit is going on. He tells me, EW man, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but the coroner has no idea what happened to this kid. He's never even seen anything like it. My friend goes on to tell me that when the coroner opened the kid up, he couldn't even believe what he was seeing. The kid's organs were like Swiss cheese. Quarter-sized holes were punched clean through just about every single organ that kid had, aside from his heart and lungs. But his colon, his stomach, his kidneys, and even one of his testicles were full of these clean holes. My friend said the coroner described it as someone had taken a hole punch and punched holes out of everything. They were so neat. But the kid didn't have a scratch on him. No entry or exit wounds. The closest anyone there had ever seen like it was a guy who filled himself up with buckshot a year or so back when he was cleaning his rifle. So, no one had a clue what could possibly have caused this. My friend asked me if I'd ever heard of anything like it, or if we'd had any similar cases in the past, but I'd never heard of something like that. I told him I wasn't going to be any help to him. As far as I know, the coroner determined the cause of death as something like massive internal bleeding, but no one knows what really happened. I've never been able to forget that kid. I have nightmares about it sometimes. I don't let my kids into the woods alone, and when we go together, I never let them out of my sight. I used to love it out here. That case and a couple others just sort of ruined it for me.
Dinner was over, so we started to clean up and go back to our cabins. Before we went our separate ways, he put his hand on my shoulder and looked at me really close. Tells me that there's bad things out here. Things that don't care if we have families or lives or that we can think and feel. Tells me to be careful, and he walks away. I didn't get a chance to talk with him again, but that story stuck with me. So it's similar to the grid pattern. It's as if the kid got dimensionally torn apart, right?
Yeah.
Like he occupies one space, but then everything kind of shifts over at 50% margins. Like everything kind of gets split in half and draws away from itself, including his internal organs. It's really sick setup.
Just the idea of finding just fucking extremely, it's almost alien. You know, like it's like almost like some kind of weird experiment was happening on him, and it's like there's no entry or exit. It's so, I don't know. It's almost surgical, I guess, is why I keep harping on that.
It's like it's an injury pattern you would never see. Also, I have to mention it because I'm that guy. You wouldn't have buckshot out of a rifle; it would be a shotgun. So, explain that, search and rescue woods.
There you go.
I'm very smart, and it's important I point that out. It matters, I promise. By pure coincidence, I got to talk to another vet, PB, who's been in the search and rescue field for years. We were partnered on a grid sweep during a training exercise, and we were chatting casually about how we liked the job, what kind of things we'd seen, and the like. At one point, we passed an old set of stairs, though these were probably from an old fire lookout, given the area that we were in. Sort of casually mentioned that I was curious about the stairs and that I wished I knew more about them. He got kind of quiet and looked like he wanted to tell me something. Wasn't sure if he should. Finally, he told me to turn my radio off. Obviously, this is something we are never, ever supposed to do, but I did. And he did the same. About 7 years ago, he tells me, he was out on a call with a rookie. They were in the area of the park that had a lot of strange reports and events. Disappearances, stories about lights in the forest, odd noise, things like that. The rookie was totally spooked, kept going on and on about things out in the woods. According to PB,
the guy wouldn't stop talking about the goat man. Just on and on. Goat man this and goat man that. Finally, I told him that there was plenty else to be afraid of out there, and that was very real, and that he better get over this thing with the goat man. The rookie wanted to know what kinds of things I was talking about, and I just told him to shut up and walk. We crested a little ridge, and there was a staircase about 10 yards ahead. The rookie stops dead in his tracks and just stands there looking at them. I tell him, see? That's something you should be afraid of. And the rookie asked me what the hell these things are doing here. And for some reason, I just open up and tell him the truth. Or what I've been told is the truth. I could have gotten in a lot of trouble for doing what I did. And I could get in a lot of trouble for repeating it to you. But you're a nice kid. I want you to stop looking into this. Quit while you're ahead. So I'll tell you what I know, under the condition that you never breathe a word of this to the suits.
I told him I wouldn't say a word. He double checks that our radios are off.
When I first started out, we were a little less tight-lipped about them and other things that happen out here. We warned people before they were even hired that there was weird shit going on. I guess the Forest Service was tired of having such a massive turnover rate, and they wanted people to know what they were getting into. So they started having people sign these agreements, and they wouldn't go to the media about what they were going to see. The FS didn't want to scare people away. So the last thing they needed were spooked rookies running off to the media with stories of ghosts and haunted stairs, but eventually they found out that the agreements weren't necessary. People not only didn't want to talk about what they saw, they wouldn't. A few times, media tried to talk to people when the kids or hikers would disappear, and no one would say a word. I can't really explain it. I guess we just don't really want to admit anything is wrong. It's our job. To be on the woods every single day. We don't need to be spooked. The best way to avoid that is to pretend like everything's okay. So I'll tell you everything I can think of. And after that, I'm done talking about it for good. And I expect you not to bring it up around me, ever. The stairs have been out here as long as the parks have existed. We have records going back decades describing them. Sometimes people go up them and nothing happens. Other times, look, I really don't like talking about this, but sometimes really bad shit happens. I saw one guy get his hand sliced clean off when he got to the top of the step. He reached out to touch like a tree branch, and then it happened so fast. 1 second it was there, and the next it was gone. Completely clean wound. We didn't find his hand. The guy almost died. Another time, a woman touched one of the stairs and a blood vessel in her brain exploded. Literally exploded like a water balloon. She sort of stumbled down and came over to me, and all she got out was, "I think something's wrong with me." She dropped like a sack of flour, dead before she hit the ground. I'll never get the way the blood leaked into her eyes. Before she died, I watched it turn red. I watched it happen, and there wasn't a single thing I could do to help. We warn people not to go anywhere near them, but there's always at least one idiot who does. And even if nothing happens to them, something bad always happens. Kids go missing as we're on the trail. Someone dies the next day, cut in half in a completely safe part of the park. And I don't know why, but something bad always happens. I don't know exactly why they're out here, but it doesn't matter. They're here. And if we're smart, we tell our new officers exactly what they'd be capable of.
We're both quiet for a little while. I was afraid to talk because I wasn't sure if he was done. It looked like he wanted to say something else. Finally, he spoke up again.
Have you ever noticed how you can't find the same ones twice?
I nodded, expecting him to continue, but he just stayed quiet, walking alongside me. And eventually, he started a story about the biggest deer he'd ever seen in the park. I didn't bring up the subject again, and I didn't press him for any more stories. He dropped out of the op on the next day. Apparently, he left before the sun came up, said he was sick. None of us heard from him since he left. I'm going to stop here for the time being. I'll try and post the next part in the coming days, but with that being the end of summer, things are pretty busy here. Thanks for the continued interest, guys. You've really awakened this curiosity in me that I didn't know I had. End of part 4.
So part 5...
gosh, it's so good.
Part 5, I'm noticing, has the first not safe for work tag, so that's fun.
Yay!
Yeah,
we love that! Yay! So I love the stairs in the woods. I love the details about like
Hi,
you go
Kiwi.
up them, something weird happens.
I'm doing good.
It reminds me of what were they called?
Welcome
The
to
mother
the
horse
stream.
eyes. The things around the flesh interface.
Oh, goddamn! What are those called?
The zones.
Yeah,
the little zones.
The little I think there were zones.
Incident zones. Yeah. These incident zones appear that if something steps into them, like their flesh disappears or like the part of them that touches it evaporates. And in there, it was because they go to feed the interface. But here, it's almost like they're just being taken over into a different dimension for some reason. That's what like you walk to the top of the stairs and all of you or pieces of you just disappear.
Don't like that.
It's also similar to the flesh interface in that you can just die from coming into contact with it. Because in there, it talks about kids getting, in Mother Horse Eyes, kids get tips of their fingers taken off and then they die from it months later. Like they've been poisoned because they came into contact with it. It's kind of similar to the girl's brain just getting a massive aneurysm out in the woods.
Yeah. The guy his hand sliced clean off is crazy too.
Yeah, just reaches out and then boop, hand gone.
It's also kind of interesting too that it makes it seem like every time something bad's happened, someone has walked on the stairs, even if it's like not them, you know?
Well, that's why they lost that kid that night, and that veteran came up and said, "You went up them, didn't you?"
Mm-hmm.
Just know that anytime you go up the stairs, something bad happens. It's pretty cool. Part 5, you ready?
Yes, sir.
I apologize for the short update, guys. Things have gotten a little crazy around here, and I'm not sure how often I'll be able to update going forward. I really appreciate all the support you guys have given me. While I only have a couple of stories to share with you, I'll be interested to see what you all think. A firefighter who was helping us at the training op told me about a call he'd gone on, supposedly to help rescue a kid from an absolutely massive tree. He said they didn't give him details, but they needed him to come out and help because they lacked the proper equipment. He'd been called out specifically because this thing was so huge that the search and rescue officers didn't feel safe trying to climb it. He'd been a tree trimmer before joining the VFD, so it was easy enough for him to grab his old equipment and come help out. He was led out about 2 miles, and the team stopped at one of the biggest trees in the area and pointed up. He laughed and asked the op, how can the kid have gotten up there? Made some jokes about the old cat in a tree thing, but the captain just shook his head. Told him to get up there and get the kid down. He said he knew something was up, but he didn't push it. He said that as he climbed the tree, he started wondering if they were playing a prank on him.
There's no way this kid should have been able to climb this fucking thing. It was massive at the base, but about halfway up, it started tapering. It almost had to turn back a few times because I really didn't think it was going to hold me.
But he said he kept going. And when he was just about at the top, he saw a flash of blue in the branches.
I saw the kid's shirt sort of caught in a branch, and I called out to him and I told him to come near me if he could. But he didn't say anything. I kept moving, calling the kid's name and telling him not to be scared, that I was there to help him. By the time I got to him, I knew he wasn't going to answer me. I found him, or what was left of him, cradled in the fork of a branch, and the fact that he was up there was sheer luck. If he'd fallen any other way, he would have come crashing down. It wouldn't have mattered though, because this kid was dead long before he ended up in that tree. I don't know who put him up there, or how, or why, but it was fucking sick. Kid's intestines had popped out of his mouth and were hanging in the branches. It was like some sick fucking Christmas tree, the way they were draped all over everything.
Aw,
I got a better look and saw that it even popped out of his ass. His guts were hanging
I want to wish you a good
out of the
stream.
bottom of his pants.
Good night.
His eyes were gone. I assume shoved out.
Yeah,
from
just kind of a
whatever
quiet
force
stream
caused it to
today.
fucking
Just
pop like a
mostly
stress
listening
ball.
to
You ever
this.
seen a body that's been floating in water for a long time? How their tongues kind of swell up and stick out? It's like that. I remember because there were flies crawling all over it. I think I must have gone into shock because, man, I just pushed the kid down with a stick and broke off a branch. Just kind of poked him until he fell. I don't know why I did that. I almost lost my job because of that. But man, the thought of hauling that kid down over my shoulder the whole way, gathering his guts up and coiling them around me like rope so they couldn't get snagged. I couldn't do it. I've seen a lot of dead kids. More than I'd ever admit. I've seen kids who had hidden the full bathtub during a house fire, boiled them alive, turned them into literal soup. I don't know what did this, but the thought of touching that kid's body made me feel like I was going to lose my mind. I heard him hit the ground, and I figured everyone would freak out, but they knew he was dead when they sit me up there. They didn't say anything, but they didn't shout or freak out or anything. I got to the bottom and started to get up in the captain's face, asking him who he thought he was sending me up there when they knew damn well the kid was dead. But he just told me it was none of my concern and thanked me for getting the evidence down. I remember he said that. I remember it specifically because it was so weird to hear it phrased that way. The evidence. Like he wasn't even a fucking person. Like he'd never had a little kid who got lost and had something fucking unspeakable happen to him. The captain of the crew led me back out of the woods, but he and two others stayed behind. And I thought that was weird. Why wouldn't they have just helped that kid out? I tried asking, but the guys leading me out just told me they couldn't discuss an open case.
I asked him what he thought had happened to the kid, and he got really pensive and thought about it for a bit.
I would have said a crush injury, based on how his guts came out like that, but with those injuries, you see massive contusions under the skin, obvious trauma. This wasn't like that. It was almost like the kid got caught in a big vacuum and had his guts sucked out. But even then, there was no trauma. Not at all. It bothers me, man. It bothers the hell out of me.
That's also another. The author keeps doing this. The search and rescue keeps doing this cool thing where they put these improbable scenarios in the middle of the woods, and the setting makes it so uncanny, like the recording of the crying and stuff like that.
Yeah, the
looping crying.
Yeah.
But here it's like,
Even
for this kid to have died that way, he would have had to have been in like a space vacuum.
Well, it's like the Swiss cheese holes, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, what on earth? Like, how did that get here? You know?
Yeah. Like I said, it seems like some kind of sick. It seems like some kind of weird experiment or something.
Yeah.
Some kind of like unnatural experiment of some kind, or something. Maybe even could have been a thing where people, which this is me just, you know, whatever. When people go up the stairs, maybe that's just a thing of like he was like fucking thrown out. Everything, his organs were sucked out of him. Another time is maybe the kid went up the stairs and literally just like there was just tons of holes inside of his body, like it just like a giant like fucking thorn bush or something stuck him, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's so many different options of how things could have happened, but it's the unexplainableness, the oddness of it, it's so peculiar, it's off-putting, you know.
Mm-hmm.
One of the vets at the training op reads No Sleep, and he recognized my stories. He knows me pretty well, and we've saw stories before. He asked if he could share something he's noticed about the stairs and some thoughts he's had.
I'm really glad you decided to share these. I think it's important that people be aware of what's out there, especially since the Forest Service is doing such a good job at covering it all up.
I asked him what he meant.
What do you mean, what do I mean? The lack of any kind of media attention? No coverage of missing kids or bodies found miles from where they get lost in the first place. David Pilatus hit this right on the head. The Forest Service is doing everything they can to keep people coming here, even if it isn't safe. I mean, to be fair, it's not like these things happen every day, but the numbers add up, and it's worth looking into, especially the stairs. I was surprised you didn't mention the flipped ones.
I didn't know what he was talking about. I can't remember him ever talking about something like that. He seemed somewhat incredulous.
Dude, I can't believe you've been on this long without seeing them. No one told you about them?
I shrugged and asked him to elaborate.
Well, there's the normal stairs, the ones that pop up when we're out of ways. I know you know about them, but sometimes I run across ones that are flipped upside down. I guess it would be like if you had a dollhouse and the stairs were a separate piece. Now take that, flip it upside down so the top is stuck in the dirt, and put it out in the woods. They're like that. I don't see them often, but they're odd. But they're odd to say the least. Makes you think of footage taken after a tornado, when houses are all blown apart and random things are left standing, like chimneys and garden walls. Those ones freak me out more than the normal ones. I can't write those off as easily.
I don't scare very easily, like most of us who work out here, but the idea stuck with me, and it bothers me. Going to try and find out more about them. He also mentioned how many people were bothered by the guy with no face. He got really excited and told me he'd seen something similar.
I was out on a training exercise a few years ago. I was camped out in my tent and I heard someone walking around outside of a camp. We're told not to wander far, which, you know. So I wondered if maybe it was a rookie who'd gotten up to pee and couldn't find his way back. Remember that guy in our group a few years back who almost fell off the damn mountain? Well, I'm paranoid about that happening again. So I got up to see what was going on and went to the edge of camp, and I called to whoever it was and told them the camp was this way. But they kept going back out into the woods. So I went after them. I know it was stupid, but I was half asleep and I just really didn't want to deal with some idiot getting hurt. I followed this thing on a dead straight course for about a mile, but then it stopped on the edge of a little river. I could see the outline of it because the water was reflecting the moon, and it looked just like an ordinary guy. He had a pack on and looked like he was facing me. I asked if he was okay, if he needed help, and he cocked his head like he didn't understand me. I always have my pocket knife on me. It's got a little thumb light attached to it. So I turned that on and lit up his chest so I wouldn't blind him. He was breathing slow and deep, so I wondered if he was sleepwalking. I went closer and asked him again if he was okay. I moved the light up, and something just didn't seem right. So I stopped. He kept breathing in real slow, deep breaths. I sort of figured out gradually that that's what was bothering me. It was like he was pretending to breathe, but not actually doing it. His breaths were too even and deep, and all of his movements were exaggerated, like his shoulders were going up and his chest moving. I told him to identify himself, and he made his muffled noise. I moved the light up, and I shit you not, this guy had no face, just smooth skin. I freaked out and I sort of fumbled my light, but I saw him move toward me, but he didn't actually move. I just don't know how to explain it. But 1 second, he was at the edge of the river, and the next, he was 5 feet from me. I never looked away or blinked. It was like he moved so fast my brain couldn't keep up. I tripped and fell on my ass, and I could see this line open up on his throat. It stretched up to his ears, and his head tilted back, and he smiled at me with his throat. There wasn't any blood, just this gaping dark hole, and I swear he smiled at me with his gash in his throat. I got up and I ran as fast as I could back to camp. I couldn't hear him following me, but I felt like he was always right behind me, even though when I looked back, I couldn't see him. I calmed down when I got back to camp and the fire was still going, and I guess that pack mentality of being with other people made me stop and breathe a little. I waited by the fire to see if he'd follow me there. I didn't hear anything else for a few hours, so I went back to bed. I know it sounds weird, but the whole thing was so surreal that it was almost like I immediately wrote it off as my imagination. I will say the scariest record of that is I love the breathing thing. Like he's breathing in his shoulders.
So good.
Yeah, creepy.
Like he's trying to look like he's breathing. Man, that's so good. It's similar to the stairs and similar to like the cry loop. It's like something that isn't human trying to come off as human. And it's like, oh, well, this is what people look like, but they have the face wrong. It's like, oh, well, this is what people breathe like, but it's too exaggerated. And of course, it's like, oh, well, I want to come off as friendly, so I'm going to smile, but it doesn't know where the smile goes, so it puts a gash in the throat. It's so creepy. It's like something wants us to cross over to the other side so bad. It's, again, similar to stairs. It's like, oh, people walk up these, so I'll put this out here.
The no face thing, I mean, we see that a lot, like the no face, like that. It's just that little thing, like almost like, you know, I mean, the smile, it is what it is. Like, I'm not like super stoked on that, but I will say, like, just that breathing thing of like this uncanny breath is just, that's I love that. A lot of fun. Also, that's the same guy that definitely takes giant strides.
Yeah, well, it gets too close. Again, it's like they're trying to walk, but they don't know what walking is. So it's like it's like they're doing the same thing in the wrong steps almost. They're trying to get the aspects of it down, but they're bad at it. Man, that's so good. The mimicry is so good. We were telling ghost stories one night before bed just to scare each other and poke fun at whoever got creeped out. Most of the time it's the rookies, but one woman told a story that actually managed to get under my skin a little bit. And I know the same was true for others. She said it was true. But then again, every ghost story told around a campfire is true. Somehow, though, I don't think she was making it up. It had that ring of truth that only really traumatizing events have. She said that when she was a kid, she and her friend used to go out in the woods behind her house a lot. She lived in northern Maine, where there's a lot of dense, unpopulated national forest. She said the woods up there aren't like they are here. They're so thick in places that the trees block out the sun almost completely. She and her friend grew up there, so they weren't scared of being out there alone, but they did always maintain a sense of caution in certain areas. She said it was never really talked about, but they always knew not to go more than a mile or two beyond their homes. The adults never said why. There's an unspoken rule that no one ventured out that far. She and her friend made up stories about bears as big as houses that lived out there and used to scare each other by hiding and making growling noises while the others searched for them.
I love that.
She said one summer, there was a series of awful storms that blew down a lot of trees, set one part of the forest a few miles behind her house on fire. Fire crews got it under control. She said some of them came back not quite the same. It was like they'd been to war. You could tell who'd really gotten scared because they had the same look on their faces. I think it's called shell shock. My friend and I said they were like walking dead people. They didn't smile or say anything if you went up to them, and most of them left town as soon as everything was over. I asked my parents about it, but they said they didn't know what I was talking about. Once everyone was told the woods were safe again, my friend and I decided to try and hike out to where the fire had been. We didn't tell our parents where we were going. It was pretty exciting to think that we were disobeying them like that. We hiked about 2 miles or so, and we started seeing burnt trees and stuff. I remember my friend got really upset because we found the skeleton of a deer curled up under a tree, and I practically had to drag her away. She wanted to bury it, but I didn't want her touching it because its antlers were weird. I can't remember why, just remember thinking there was something wrong with them. I didn't want either of us going near it. That's so cool.
How do you think they were weird?
What a cool little detail. What a cool random detail. Maybe like too many points, or like they were growing weird or backwards or something. I like to think that they were.
I like to think that they were like, you know, because they're usually jolted out like branches. It'd be kind of sick if they were all curled, like very like all swirly, like too smooth and swirly. You know?
Yeah, they're all too like the lines don't move the way deer antlers normally move.
Yeah,
something like that. Man, that's such a sick little, similar to the breathing and stuff like that. Just like the antlers on the body were weird. Like, I love those little details. They're so good.
Like how nonchalantly it's said, or like it's just so candid. Yeah. Like it's just like, oh, I didn't want her to touch it because the horns were kind of weird. But it isn't. But it isn't like giving you this big grandiose explanation. It's just more of an afterthought. But that's the thing that just fucking hits you the hardest. You're like, what? Mm-hmm. Go back.
What? Can we go back? Yeah. Can we get some clarification on that?
She's like, no.
No, I don't think you will. The farther we went, the more burned everything got. Eventually, there were no standing trees, and it was like being on another planet. Almost nothing green, just brown and black everywhere. We were standing there looking at it all.
We both heard someone shouting in the distance. I panicked because I thought it was my dad and that he was going to tell me I was grounded. My friend broke off and went to hide behind a rock because she said she didn't want to be caught out here. Her parents had forbidden her to come out in the woods at all, and she lied and told them we were going to a movie. I followed her and we kept listening. I could hear this voice getting closer, and I realized they were calling for help. I thought maybe it was some hiker who'd gotten lost and needed directions back to town. That used to happen all the time, so I was used to helping people out. I heard him following my voice, so I kept calling out until I saw him running in the distance. He got closer, and I could see that his face was all red. I told my friend to give me her pack because she had a first aid kit. She made this noise like she was grossed out, and she asked if I saw his face. I told her to shut up, and I jogged up to meet him. I stopped about halfway, and when he stopped in front of me, I could see that his nose and lips and part of his forehead were all gone.
Oof.
It was like they'd been sliced clean off. He was bleeding bad, and I saw the knees of his pants were red too. I took a step back, but I was too scared to move much, and he grabbed my shoulders. Felt like I got a shock, and he jerked back. He started babbling, and I couldn't tell what he was saying, except that he was asking how long he'd been gone. He asked me where his unit was, but I just shook my head. He looked me over, and he saw my Walkman, and he screamed. He just kept babbling and touching his face, and I realized he wasn't wearing the right clothing. Some kind of weird gray cloth jacket and almost formal pants on, and the jacket has these weird buttons and red borders on it. I kept shaking my head and told him I couldn't understand what he was saying. I went to open the first aid kit when he just screamed again and said that the only thing I could really understand.
Don't touch me! You made me go back there!
After that, he ran off, and I could hear him screaming the whole time. When I couldn't hear him anymore, I turned around and my friend was crying. Just turned around and started walking back towards them. She asked me over and over what happened and who that was, but I didn't say anything. When we got home, I told her I didn't want to play in the woods with her anymore. We're still friends, but we don't talk about that guy. Not ever. I'll update you guys as soon as I'm able. Appreciate the continued support.
Yeah, exactly. the last story being like a Confederate soldier that definitely like either walked up the woods or something, like walked up the stairs a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun too. It seems like
you can also see where the injury was because it's his lips, nose, forehead, and knees. So it's like he was stepping and then like the frontal plane made contact.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the idea too, because this idea is that like, has he just been trapped in a void for over 100 years or something?
Could be a void. Could also be, because they talk about
time moves.
There's been several
slow.
instances where time gets weird. Like the girl who thinks she's gone an hour, she's gone 2 days. The little kids who are that one boy that says was gone a month. And when they find him, he's like the same condition, same clothes, not dirty or anything. So maybe you just skip. Or maybe for this Confederate guy, maybe he did go to some weird pocket dimension for a while and then wind up in Maine in like the 90s, you know? That's so cool. The visual being in a burnt forest and it's foggy, and then through the fog comes running a man with a red face. He's bleeding everywhere in a Confederate uniform. That's so terrifying.
Yeah. You'd be even more terrifying too. I don't know why. If it's a guy in a reenactment, they're like, "Oh my God, you're from hundreds of years ago." He's like, "No, I swear to God, I'm not." It's like weird thing. Like that.
My name's Jason. I work at Big Lots.
Yeah, I work at Enron. How's the company doing? Do I still have my job? They're like, "Oh."
Well, as long as I can go to my office at the World Trade Center, I'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. 56th floor, beautiful views. Like, buddy,
well,
you dodged a bullet. It's like his nose and forehead's going off. He's like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "You're in better shape. Trust me."
Well,
that should be fine as long as my secondary office at Building 7 next to the World Trade Center is okay.
Yeah.
I don't think anything bad would happen to it, since if anything were to happen to the towers, it has its own structural support system, and there would never be a reason it would fall. Meaning, thankfully, all of the CIA and FBI's budget documents can be kept in one place, safe from attack.
If I have and I gotta say, luckily, I still have an in at the Pentagon, so it'll be okay.
It's like, as long as they don't hit the east wing of the Pentagon, which, of course, as mentioned, holds records of all of the
stairs in the woods were just trying to kill specifically this guy. That's like it's like that. That's we don't need to.
The stairs. The stairs in the woods were built by like George Bush to like cover up.
Yeah, it's Dick Cheney.
Yeah,
exactly. It's gonna be all kinds of stairs. George is like,
that's why.
Sounds good.
That's why Dick Cheney shot that guy in the woods.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, do you see that staircase? That was an accident. Let's go back.
I thought the deer was looking at my stairs. Turns out it was a man in a camo jacket. Oops.
Oops. That was an accident. Oopsie daisy.
Dick, I just don't know about these stairs, Dick. But if it gets us to the island quicker, then maybe it's all connected. The stairs were to kill. The Confederate soldier was the guy Dick Cheney shot in the woods.
Yeah. Where am I? Just a random guy in the woods. Sorry, you startled me. You saw me.
Is that the vice president?
Yeah. Is that the vice president? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so good story. Good part 5.
Yeah, good bit. Part 6 also has a not safe. So the not safe for work tag was just the guy.
It was the boy.
Yeah, the boy
with the guts.
Disemboweled, whatever. Deemboweled.
Which I will say, it is nice to have a not safe for work tag that is not safe for work in a not child sexual abuse sense. That does feel good to have.
It feels refreshing. We don't see that a lot.
It feels refreshing. No, we do not. We do not.
But don't worry, because part 6 also has one, so we'll see.
Well, we'll see if it changes, but normally our stories, they use every letter of that abbreviation.
They really leave nothing to the imagination.
It is capital all the way through.
Yeah,
they do not hold back.
Painful all the way through.
All right.
I will say too, we've been recording for 3 hours. This recording has felt like brisk. Like, I feel like this has been a lot of fun. I think having all these things be micro doses is like, it keeps re-engaging you in a fun way. So I don't know. A lot
it keeps it rolling well. I agree.
Which later on, he's definitely adding more information as the parts are progressing, but still, it still feels like these campfire stories, which I think that's the essence of what makes this such a memorable experience.
Yeah. It's been way too long since I've posted an update, and I'm sorry about that. There's also been some confusion about the new formatting requirements on the board, which I've cleared up. So these next few stories are going to be posted a little differently. They'll be in chronological order, and I'll do my best to tie them into each other as much as I can so it doesn't skip around too much. When I started out as a rookie, no one told me about the job in terms of weird things that could happen. I'm assuming this was largely to prevent me from freaking out and abandoning the park, but a few months into my service, when I was still a rookie, a friend and I were drunk at a party, and he opened up a bit.
It can get a little crazy out there, I guess. I think the worst are the ones where people die when they just shouldn't, or when we find them dead like 10 minutes after someone says that they saw them last. They were fine when I passed them on the switchback, I swear. That sort of shit. Like, take this guy I found one spring out on a really popular trail. Someone comes into the VC freaking out about some guy who's lying in the middle of the path in this giant pool of blood. So we run out there and we find this guy dead as a doornail, which he absolutely should be, because the back of his head is like mashed potatoes. The skull is decimated, brains are leaking out like custard filling, and the guy's old, so you figure, he probably fell in his head. Old people fall all the time. It's no big deal, except that this area where he fell doesn't have any big rocks. There's not even stumps or big branches, and on top of that, there's no blood trail, so he clearly died where he dropped. Now, that's when you turn to murder. But were people just out of line of sight with the guy? If someone came up behind him and murdered him, there's no way someone would have heard. And again, even if someone had, there'd be a blood trail splattered all over the place. But everyone on the scene said it looked exactly like he'd fallen and smashed his head on a rock. So, what the fuck did he hit his head on? And then there was this lady I found in a different park about 5 years ago, back when I was upstate. We found her in the middle of a stand, or like big junipers curled around the trunk like she was hugging it, and we picked her up to move her, and a fucking waterfall comes out of her mouth, splashing all over my shoes. Her clothes are all dry and her hair is dry, but the amount of water in her lungs and stomach was phenomenal. Unreal, man. Coroner's report says the cause of death was drowning. Her lungs were completely full of water. This, even though we're in the middle of the high desert and there isn't a body of water for miles. No puddles, no nothing. No signs of anyone else being out there. I mean, yeah, it's possible they were murdered, but why would you go out of the way and do it like that? Why not just stab them and be done with it? I don't know. It just sits weird with me.
That woman we found in the desert full of water, a little weird.
That one is pretty. That one's pretty sweet. The idea of like a woman being found completely dry, crawling under the tree, and you move her, and then she just like gushes out water. Pretty fucked up. She's not even. Her hair's not like, she's completely dry. It's so.
I think
odd.
the implication is that this stuff under, like the stair stuff, the dimensional transporting stuff, isn't just on the stairs. It can be other places too. I think.
I see.
So it's like she drowned, but in the water, her body drifted into this rift that teleported it here. Like, which is like in hindsight very similar to the flesh interface concept. There's something I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, it further adds to like with every other death, something about it's just a little bit off. It also reminds me of a lot of weird, like sort of missing 411 cases I'll read about every now and then, where there's a really strange detail like that. Like there's this one where a little boy went missing, and the only trace they found of him was one of his socks on top of a mountain like 30 miles away. And it's like, okay, how? Like, what happened there, you know? It reminds me of that, where just one detail is unexplainable and it makes the whole thing strange.
Right.
Now, of course, that freaked me out a little. We were wasted, and I guess I sort of wrote it off as a fluke. Also assumed there was exaggeration there since, you know, we were wasted. Now, I don't like talking about this next case very much. It was an awful one that I've done my best to forget about, but of course, it's easier said than done. This happened about 6 months after the conversation with my friend at the bar, and up until that point, I hadn't had a lot of really weird shit go down. A few things here and there, and of course the stairs, but it's amazingly easy to get used to stuff like that when it's treated as if it's normal. This case was a little different. A guy with Down syndrome in his 20s went missing after his family lost sight of him on a major path. This was odd in and of itself, because this guy never really left his mom's side. She was absolutely convinced he'd been kidnapped, and unfortunately, a ranger who isn't with the park anymore insinuated that no one was going to kidnap someone, well, with that kind of disability. Not very... that would be you as a park ranger. Just evil.
Not evil. Just I am who I am.
You can't blame a dog for being a dog. Can't blame a man.
Exactly. See, now you're learning. Exactly.
You can't hold it. It's in one's nature to be terrible.
I am who I am. Do not try to change me.
Not very tactful, to say the least. Wasted a lot of time trying to calm her down enough to get information about him, and then we put out an official missing persons call. Because of the urgency of the situation, him being mostly unable to function alone, we had local police come in and help us. We didn't find him the first night, which was heartbreaking. None of us wanted to think about him being out alone out there. We assumed he just kept wandering and was staying ahead of us. We brought out helis the next day, and they spotted him in a little canyon.
I helped bring him back up, but he was in bad shape. I think we all knew he wasn't going to make it. He'd fallen and broken his spine.
Jesus.
Couldn't feel his lower half. He'd also broken both his legs, one of the femur, and he lost a lot of blood. He was confused and scared while he was alone, so he'd probably exacerbated the injuries by dragging himself a little ways. I know it sounds awful, but while I was riding in the copter with him, I asked him why he'd wandered off. Just wanted something to tell his mother. I'll let her know it wasn't her fault, because he was fading fast and I didn't think she could ask him herself. He was crying, and he said something about how the little sad boy had wanted him to come play. He said the little boy wanted to trade so he could go home. And he closed his eyes, and when we woke up again, he was in the canyon. I'm not sure that's exactly what he said, but it's what I thought the gist of it was. He kept crying, asking where his mommy was, and I held his hand and tried my best to keep him calm.
It was cold out there.
He kept saying that.
It was cold out there. My legs was frozen. It was cold out there. It's cold in me.
He was getting even weaker, so he eventually stopped talking and closed his eyes for a while. Then, we were about 5 minutes from the hospital. He looked right at me with these big tears running down his face, and he said,
Mama won't see me no more. Love Mama. Wish she was here.
He closed his eyes and he just never woke up. It was horrible. I don't like talking about it. The case was one of the first ones that really rattled me badly. Man, the little boy wanted to trade. So it's like the fuzzy man again. Like the thing where it's like, I keep the kids, but you're not right. But that kid wasn't right, so he got to go. So maybe kids can trade with other people, but they have to choose to.
Well, almost I'm like wondering if the kid was stuck in this place, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he's stuck in like this kind of zone and he's like basically trading spots. Like I wonder if him dying there, like I don't know. There's just something there. Like I'm wondering what he would be trading that isn't just his life or his place in the zone, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Man, that's gosh, these stories are so good. Okay. Because of how badly it affected me, I reached out to a senior ranger and who ended up helping me through it. As time went on and we got to know each other better, he ended up sharing one of his own stories with me. It was disturbing, but it helped to know that I wasn't the only one affected by things going on out here.
I think this must have happened. I think this must have happened before, Mike. I think this must have happened before you got here, because I think it's happened while you were. Because I think if it happened while you were, oh my fucking God. Oh God, my fucking brain. Fucking idiot brain. Jesus Christ. What the fuck did I do? Was I dropped as a kid? My fucking God. I think this must have happened before you got here. Because I think if it had happened while you were here, you'd have remembered it. I know it didn't end up for...
The officer says all of that to her when he walks
He fucking should. I know it. I know it didn't end up in the news for some reason, but I think most people who've been here long enough know about it. The park sold off a portion of land to a logging company, and it was a real controversial thing. But it wasn't that large or old of a plot. It was right after the recession, so we needed the cash bad. Anyway. They were felling this plot of land, and we got a call that we need to get our supervisors out right away. I don't know why, but they ended up sending me and a few other guys along with the heads. I guess for power and numbers to see what was up. We got there, and these guys are crowded around a tree that they've just cut down. They're all pissed off and freaking out, and the foreman comes over and says he wants to know what we were up to.
What the hell y'all think this is? Some kind of sick joke? You got a lot of fucking nerve pulling this shit. We bought this land fair and square.
Well, we don't know what the hell he was talking about. So it brings us over to this felled tree and points at it and tells us that when they cut it down, it was just like this. And they'll be damned if they put it there. Inside the tree was all rotted out and hollow in one spot. And when they cut it down, it exposed that chamber. And inside it is a hand. Like a perfectly severed hand. Oh, that's fun. and it looks like it's actually fused inside the tree. Well, now we think they're pulling a joke, so we tell them that we don't like being fucked with, and we started to leave. And they tell us that they've actually called the cops and that they'll go right to the media if we don't stick around. Well, that gets the head's attention. So they stick around and talk to the police about it. Everyone is denying that they put the hand in the tree, and besides, how would anyone have done that? It's clearly a real hand, but it's not mummified or skeletal. It's brand new. Probably not even a day old. And it's definitely fused with the wood. You can see it's coming right out of it. The loggers, they insist that they didn't put it there. Somehow, this fresh human hand ended up fused inside of this living tree, and the cops have them cut up that section of tree into a movable chunk. Then, they take the hand away, and the area is closed off. There was a pretty big investigation, but I know they didn't find any answers. Now it's become this legend. As far as I know, we haven't sold any more property for logging. Interesting.
I like the idea of...
Okay, everybody. I know I've been pretty quiet. I think I'm actually gonna call it here because my hand is cramping. So I'm gonna just go ahead and say that I'm done for the day. I do appreciate everybody that came out, watched. Again, I know it was a quiet stream, which is fine. But yeah. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. And I'll see y'all later. Bye-bye.